I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 61. This one is with Jonathan Lawson, and we talk about woodworking, construction, and art photography. Great conversation. You kind of should have been there hearing our off-mic conversation. It was even better. But it's a great talk. If you'd like to find out more about Jonathan, you can find him on Instagram at Lawson Builds, LawsonBuilds, or at JW Lawson Fine Art on Instagram. JWLAWSONFINEART. Give him a follow. Interesting content on both ends of both woodworking, construction, and his art photography. Our sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a creative agency based out of Knoxville, Tennessee, although they do work for clients large and small. If it's creative or digital, they probably do it. You can find them online at Feral Giant, or give them a follow on any of the social media at Feral Giant on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. We appreciate them sponsoring Ramblin' Man Podcast. Without much further ado, here's the episode. Yeah, there's I don't even know, slumlord. Oh shoot, I can't say that. Hold on. There is a guy. I don't want to get taken to.
I've seen the realty sign
to jail
with that name on it.
Who's not a great guy? That his last name is a day of the week, and he will not. He will not sell any of his properties. And the thought was that that's how his dad was, and then his son is taking over, and it was like his son was going to, but now his son's like, no, I'm not selling any properties. And there was a piece of property on Central that there was a hole in the roof, and they went in and looked at it, and they're like, so you're going to fix that? He's like, no. He's like, you're going to lease this place for me. You'll fix that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Like, how does the city not come in and say you can't have a hole in your roof? That was one thing I didn't understand.
Well, my experience with the city is unless someone's called, they don't inspect.
Yeah.
Which is different than what I've heard from other cities, which is probably how I get away with what I do.
Yeah, we're from an undisclosed bunker, and
it's the War Room Annex.
Yeah, it's. How did you get into woodworking?
It goes way back. I originally went to architecture school.
Okay.
And so I learned what I wanted to know. My whole bent when I was in school was I didn't want to build new stuff. I wanted to take old buildings and rehab them.
Yeah.
Put a gap into an 1800s structure or something.
Yeah.
But then I found photography and then kind of left architecture. Once I learned the base level of how to make things and build things as architecture, I didn't care about the last 2 years of learning about ethics and bureaucracy and how to, how to deal for a subway stop underneath your skyscraper.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff was not.
Yeah.
I think the classes were called like professional practice or something. I'm like, I'm not there.
I
just want to make stuff.
Yeah.
And I was also in the darkroom a lot more than I was in studio.
Yeah.
And I just switched out. And I ended up leaving town because I wanted to change to fine arts, and UT was like, you have to start at first year. And I was like in fourth year. I was like, I've already been doing this a while.
Yeah.
And at the time, my girlfriend was moving to Wisconsin for grad school, and so I just left.
Yeah.
Like, how old was I? 23.
Yeah.
Like, she's cooler than not she, you know? So
she's not asking me to start at the beginning.
Right. I mean, we didn't last too much longer. I think 2 years after that, but it was an adventure. It was time.
Yeah.
So I finished in photography, and I lived in Madison, then moved to Milwaukee and finished school there.
Okay.
I was going to move to Chicago and do whatever, the whole plan, but then I realized that Chicago was so much closer than you think, and Milwaukee's so much cheaper than Chicago. You can jump on a train and be in Chicago in an hour. Right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's only 70 miles.
I didn't realize it was that close to
Yeah,
either.
they're right next door to each other.
Oh,
it's
my
closer
God.
than Kingsport.
That's insane.
So, you know, I had all the things I liked about Chicago, plus I was hanging out with Chicago people.
Yeah.
So I knew the city. I could either drive down or I'd be there all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, pay Milwaukee rents. And I was working at the art museum for a while and eventually bartending for well over a decade.
Yeah.
And that provided all kinds of, you know, easy money.
Yeah.
And so my art really took off in my own way. I was way more productive. I can't say it took off, but I was way more productive. And then life stuff happens and I moved back here.
Yeah.
Like I made all these choices of which city I wanted to move to. And I chose Knoxville because I knew the city and I had people I could collaborate with here.
Yeah.
So I came back. Long story short,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be behind the bar anymore. That was part of why I was leaving Milwaukee, because I didn't feel like I was the person
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Because you end up being kind of a persona if you're a popular bartender.
Yeah.
You get a different voice, you know, you're that, you become a thing.
Yeah.
You get known for stuff. And I didn't like it. Plus I was a little homesick. And so when I came back, I didn't want to jump into bartending, and plus it's not really as lucrative here. There's not much of a drinking scene like there. But I bumped into a guy from architecture school who was so happy to see me back and was like, "You working?" And it was John Haas.
Oh, okay.
I'd been in classes with him. We weren't super tight, but
Yeah.
every time I came to town and he saw me, he was really stoked, which I may be an inferiority complex or something, but I never understood why he liked me so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that goes across
I got
the
those
board
people.
with
Yeah.
a lot of people. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, it made me happy. It
Yeah.
feels good, but it's like
Yeah.
confusing. Because like,
Yeah.
I've been such a dick to you over time, or I've just not dealt with you at all. And
Yeah.
he was just like, man, I'm going to put you on the crew, man. So while bartending, I was also the maintenance manager of one of the bars.
Okay.
So I got into fixing things around the place because
Okay.
I knew how.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a job I'd ever had. Then working with John, we're all over Fort Sanders, like rehabbing all those apartments and stuff and just maintaining stuff.
Yeah.
He puts me to work at aisle 9, which I eventually started getting bored because I wasn't on the crew with the guys anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm the only person he knows that can run a spreadsheet, so I'm the guy that's running that place. He just has his people, you know.
Yeah.
He was I miss him every day. Then I ended up working at Knox Mason for a couple of years and back to realizing I don't want to be behind the bar.
Yeah.
And I probably, toward the end, was just a curmudgeon there.
That was your personality.
It became that, you know, like I was grumpy about what I was doing, so I was probably not the best bartender for that reason. But a client came in, or not a client now, but a friend came in and was talking about needing something at the Oliver,
Yeah.
needing some work done. And I was like, I can do it. And
Yeah.
like, really? Would
Yeah.
you want to? I was like, totally.
Yeah.
So they put me on as maintenance manager over there, and I could pretty much make my own schedule and work part-time. And other people were asking me to do drywall work or
Okay.
like little things. And
Yeah.
it just started, like it pretty much blossomed from doing drywall patches
Yeah.
and painting
Yeah.
because of the skills I knew from John.
Yeah.
And then what about this? Can you do that? I was like, well, I could probably do that.
Yeah.
And over time, For a couple of years, I was working for tools, basically. Like every job bought another tool to do the next job.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting in that collection. So it's finally to a place now where it's like I don't have to wonder how I'm going to get that done.
Well, it's also experience of like, I think I can do that, and then you do it, and you're like, okay, I add that to my repertoire.
I think I've always, like even with skateboarding and BMX and stuff when I was a kid, if I can take it apart, I can put it back together. And and the architecture education, if you know anything about buildings,
yeah,
it can be daunting if you don't understand things.
yeah,
But a building is just a set of several different systems, and each thing does its own thing. It's like like a body. There's a skeleton. There's a circulatory system. Electricity, plumbing, insulation is like the skin. Siding. You don't have to think about the entire thing at once. You got to look at the job you're asked to do and like, well, can I do that?
yeah.
And if you think about how it's put together, then you could take it apart and fix it and put it back together.
Or you look how the structure's set up and be like, okay, now how am I going to run the electrical in this? Yeah.
Now, with that kind of stuff, I generally bow out.
I got you. I'm just going to scoot.
Yeah. I usually tell the client they're better off with someone else.
Okay.
I can do fixtures,
yeah.
but given that I don't have a license,
Yeah.
if something were to go bad,
Yeah.
their insurance isn't going to cover it.
Yeah.
And so I usually make that very clear.
Yeah.
And in plumbing, I just don't want to do it.
Oh.
I'll do fixtures, but I'm not dealing with water.
So I told, there's a buddy of mine, there was a point where there were three of us to where I was like, we need to start, this is 7 or 8 years ago. I was like, we need to start a Facebook group of all people who know how to do one thing really well. Just among the friend group of like,
we have.
I was like, I know how to do plumbing a bit, not on a commercial level, but I know how to do it in a house. And one of my buddies he's a very meticulous mind. And he was like, it took me 3 years, but I learned how to do electrical work. He was like, it is an absolute nightmare.
It can be. It can be super simple too.
He was trying to do, his daytime job and then learn electrical. And he was like, I read, because he's also one of those that, God love him, he would read 8 books on it, whereas like one would have. So you know what I mean?
It sounds like he's confusing himself.
Yeah.
He might be getting into more.
But he got down to where he was like, no, now I know how to do everything. I was like,
good.
Okay. And I was like, we need just a group.
Go take the test.
And then I point at the third guy. I was like, you don't know how to do shit. It's like,
well, can he lift stuff?
Not really.
He's handy. You know what I mean? It's like any of these jobs. Like sometimes I just need hands.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so there was a point where work was super low, and there's a guy I know that does construction work, and I was like, does your boss, who I also know, I was like, does he ever need help? He's like, well, do you know how to do, and he started rattling. I was like, I can lift heavy things, and I'm tall. I can hold stuff high. And he was like, yeah, that's not enough. And I was like, okay.
But it's enough to learn. If someone lets you on.
I've hung drywall before. Like I've sheetrock, all that. Like,
wish I had you for that.
But it was like, I was like, no, I've helped my uncles and my grandfather do a myriad of things. I was like, and then he was like, no, you don't have enough experience. I went, you didn't have any experience.
Yeah,
that's like, that's okay, whatever.
It depends. It depends on their business structure too. I have a hard time keeping people because everything I do is word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I can't promise hours.
Yeah.
I can't promise you 40 hours.
Yeah.
I can promise you some work when I have it, when I need it.
Yeah.
So people are really gung-ho to work like one day a week, and they're really stoked. And eventually it's so part-time that they don't take it seriously as I do because it's my job.
Yeah.
It's all I do.
Yeah.
For them, it's their third job or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love having them around, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
And if I'm expected to have 4 hands on deck and for whatever reason I get 2 that day, it's like, man.
Yeah.
That back to all the other stuff. The reason I got into wood is mostly because of not liking electrical or plumbing, but liking structure.
Yeah.
And drywall, like finish work, like drywall and trim, I'll do out of convenience for the client, but I'd much rather build a thing
Like a deck or a
Yeah.
shed or...
I love the decks. I love the sheds. But I'm kind of taking a break from that stuff this year
Okay.
because I'm alone.
Yeah.
Like, it was easier. I used to work with a dude that I worked with, John Haas. Like,
Yeah.
he and I teamed up a lot, and he's not in the game anymore. I mean, we're still great friends, but he's doing some other job. And so having him around really amped up a lot of my deck work
Yeah.
because he was the kind of worker that he probably knows more than I do about all
Okay.
that stuff. And I knew that if Cody like walked away for a while,
Yeah.
I didn't have to go, what's Cody doing?
Yeah.
Like, where is he? I
Yeah.
knew that he knows what we're doing today,
Yeah.
and he's doing what he does to get it done.
Yeah.
Like, he figured he had to go do this, and so he went and did it. I don't question that. And we
Right.
were a pretty good team that way. Other people, it's more like you're teaching them how to do it on the job, so it's more
Yeah.
work. It's
Yeah.
fun because you can remind yourself how to work. But I'm sort of out of the deck game as I keep pointing at my shitty deck.
No, I was looking at it, I was like, huh.
I don't know. That's why I keep pointing over there. No, I'm not out of it totally, but
Yeah.
I'm going back to how I started. I'm taking a lot more like indoor,
Okay.
fix them up stuff, built-ins and little cabinets, because those are really fun.
Yeah.
And you can get super creative with it.
Yeah, I helped my uncle build. I grew up. I was always kind of there for a while, the person who held the flashlight.
And now they have headlamps.
Yeah,
so
and
you're
but
out
I
of a
was
job.
around like my grandfather and one of my uncles that I don't think there's one thing that they don't know how to do. Like my grandfather and my uncle, if it was cars, they knew how to completely break down and rebuild a car. If it was hanging sheetrock, they knew how to do that. If it was plumbing, like
You got to know.
My-
I think you need to
yeah,
know.
it's funny. My grandfather never stepped a foot in a church. My grandmother was there 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it was all of her friends, their husbands had passed away. So I was always out with my grandfather helping them with stuff around the house. They needed a light installed. They needed plumbing under their sink had busted. So I was always the one with him helping him out growing up.
And I bet for him, he loved it.
Oh,
Like, I bet there was more to it on the back end that you didn't realize.
and the funny...
He gets to play with his grandson.
The funny part was he was the gruffest man possible. But they're like, no, he loves kids. And it's like, he just hides it. His
Yeah.
poker face is amazing. And then those ladies would try to pay him. And he would always like, nah. He was like, I don't need it. And he was like, I'm just here to, because he was bored. Like, he was at that. And then he'd be like, give it to him. And they would give me $5 or
Awesome.
something. And I was like, okay, cool. All I did was hold the flashlight.
I will say, since starting this kind of work, it's been like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I've never complained about my job.
Yeah.
I used to a lot.
Yeah.
I think I just wasn't gratified by it. And now it's like, it's fun. Like, even the bad ones,
Yeah.
it's still better than being at a cubicle or being behind a bar
Oh, God.
or doing retail. You know, it's like, I'm my own boss. It's up to me today.
I
All
have-
the- Go ahead.
There's let's see, this is Thursday. There's a post that I've already written that will go up tomorrow about, like, I did some contract work. God love them because they helped me get out of a little bit of a hole. But I had to go into a company and work there and sit in a cubicle. And there were days where I was like, I have nothing to do.
Yeah.
And you're literally paying me to just sit here in case you need me. I was like, what a waste of everyone's time and money.
Yeah.
And-
I hate cubicles.
And then the post that's going up is I went over to interview Dale and Sean, and Dale was like, I want to pop balloons. I have this idea. And I was like, okay. And so she was like, can you film it and Sean will throw them and I'll pop them. I was like, she was like, no, you'll get to pop the balloons too. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. I wasn't even asking. And so she did it, Sean did it, and she was like, okay, it's your turn. And I was like, you got to do it like a ninja. And I held the like little knife to the side, and it came flying up, and it got really close, and I swear, boop, like that. But it's all in slow motion, so it's like, whoa. And I
that's
posted,
good.
I was like, I would never get to do this if I was sitting behind a desk
Right.
just because you need a seat filler. That's why I call those seat fillers. Oh, no, I got to have someone here. Like,
Yeah, they've got a structure that they feel like certain things need to be met.
yeah.
The only cubicle I ever had was at the art museum in Milwaukee. And luckily, the main time I had a cubicle, I was administrative assistant to the head of visitor operations, which is a
Yeah.
stupid title. But basically, we ran the front line.
Yeah.
All the people who take your money,
Yeah.
and I was like a liaison between the front desk and the boss.
Yeah.
Or I would go into meetings with her and, take minutes at meetings. I was part of the upper structure,
Yeah.
but I got to get up, walk down to the front desk, and actually be with the people in the museum. So I didn't have to sit at the desk all day.
Yeah.
I had things I needed to do, but I could easily go through 2 doors and be surrounded by Rothkos for a while and worm my way down to the front.
Nice.
And it surprised me how many people worked there that didn't do that. Like, I
Yeah.
was super stoked as an art kid to be involved in this institution.
Oh, yeah.
But most of the people who work there don't have any art background at all. Even the curators aren't really artists.
No.
They're art historians. And over time, I started to feel like I was so out of place.
Yeah.
And they made me feel that way too. Luckily, I got into curatorial for a little while.
Yeah.
Like, they had a new photo curator, and she made a position for me. It was pretty much the same job I had with visitor operations,
Yeah.
but for photo and
Yeah.
print media, and it was like the best job ever. But the same thing happened where I got she moved to Tucson to go to the Santa Fe Center, and I guess Tucson and Santa Fe. What was it? Center for Creative Photography is in Tucson. And then the new curator didn't like that. I didn't want to be a curator. Hey, girl. There's my dog. So I got pushed out,
Oh, my God.
by a grad student who wanted my job. And so I was like, well, it's time to go. And the irony of the whole bag is that I didn't want to be a curator. I just wanted to hang out with photos and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually I opened a gallery like 2 years later,
Oh, my
and I became a curator. It's like, man, it's full circle.
and I'm sure you can look at it. I was in Chicago a couple years back. I'm chasing baseball stadiums. I'm trying to get to every MLB stadium.
Oh, wow.
And I went on one trip that was literally just so I could go to Detroit and the 2 in Chicago.
You need to go to Miller Park.
I didn't realize it was so close. Well, I think it was. I looked. There's a site called Baseball Road Trip where you can actually plug in and it'll tell you. But I don't think they were in town enough.
Yeah.
I would have had to stay in Chicago like 3 more days to go
Sure.
to. I was like, I can't.
Well, if you're up that way, maybe hit Miller Park and go to a Twins game.
That's what I was thinking.
And that's a longer drive than it looks, by the way.
But I'm also thinking there's part of me that wants to take a St. Louis, Kansas City, and then
That'd work.
just make it like a week and a half long trip.
That's an easy drive.
Yeah, and just but while I was up there, I went to the art museum, the one from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I can never remember the name
Oh,
of
it's
it.
Art Institute.
Art Institute. And the guy who used to run the Art Institute, he was an older guy that had passed, I think, long ago. His thing was photography.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an exhibit. I take that back. I think he had recently passed. They had an exhibit downstairs of all of his photography. He had Matthew Brady's in there. Like I can never remember the name. I read a damn article on it from Earl Morris, and I can never remember. It's the guy who took a photo of, I think, the Spanish-American War, and there were...
Is that Kappa?
No, it wasn't Kappa. No, that wasn't Spanish-American. That's right. There were cannonballs in the road, and they're saying he moved them into the road to make it look...
I want to say Brady did that too.
Some other...
But I
Earl
know
Morris wrote a book on documentary photography.
it's almost like there was one shot on the cover of Time or something, and it was about the Depression, and someone put a cow skull out in the middle of it. It was planted, and he got a lot of shit for it. And it's like the photograph is still telling.
Yeah.
I think back then people were like, photography always gets a bad rap
Yeah.
because it seems easy. But if you're trying to have a narrative with photographs, it's not always right there.
Yeah.
Like, people didn't look at symbolism in photos. They wanted it to be realism at all times.
Oh, yeah.
And so that people get a lot of shit for that. And it's bad.
But whoever that was, he had that photo there, and I saw it. It was under a glass case. I saw it, and I literally looked up and went, and I almost started pointing and go, hey, this is the photo I read about. I was like,
Right.
oh, yeah,
You
nobody understands.
You were surprised to see it, but everybody was like, yeah, there it is.
It was great. It was weird seeing more modern photography in there that was, I don't know. He had some Eggleston that was
The
named.
king.
Yeah.
He's my guy.
Those Kodachrome. Like, Sean and I went down a, God, I keep mentioning him, went down a rabbit hole. I was like, explain to me why he is important. And he was like,
He's the first color photographer to ever be in a museum.
and he started going, I was like, okay. I was like, because I didn't find him until after college.
Yeah.
Long after. And I was like, yeah, it just looks like.
Eggleston, I could compare him to T-Rex.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's influenced by this guy.
Yeah.
And it takes you a long time to realize who he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody knows who Mark Bolan is, but they learn eventually when they get into certain things.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Everybody gets.
I love Eggleston. His ideas, I was talking about him yesterday.
Yeah.
The whole idea of doing democratic photography,
Yeah.
that was his main bag, was if it catches your eye, shoot it.
Yeah.
I hate the term shoot,
Yeah.
but if it's for whatever reason, it's almost like you don't understand why you're attracted to that girl, but you are.
Yeah.
Like, if something happens to draw your attention, that's a gift.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the camera with you,
Yeah.
you lost it. It's gone. Because next time you walk by there, you won't see it the same.
Yeah.
And he was just that guy. And who knows what his contact sheets look like.
Yeah.
But the stuff he did put out is brilliant. And it's, I think, where he really shines is he pretty much ripped away irony from photography. Because a lot of times the texts or the composition is, irony is it's bad.
Yeah.
It can be bad. It's clever, and you can see it because you don't have to really think about what the photo means, but it looked so like he's just walking down the street looking at these things.
Yeah.
But the colors and the compositions are just brilliant, and it's so jazz almost.
Yeah.
So freeform.
It is wild seeing, like, he did, or Spoon used one of his photos for an album cover, that I always look at that photo and go, how old is that photo? Like, it looks
And that's
like
his son.
and it looks like something that would be on, I hate to say on Instagram, but it looks like something modern and all that.
And that's a photo of Winston, his kid, who
really?
now runs, I think Winston runs his trust or estate or whatever.
Okay.
He's still alive. He's out still in Memphis kicking around.
That's funny.
You get into Bill Eggleston and it's like, beyond the artwork, there's the lore. He's like almost a Hunter Thompson kind of character in photography, especially around Memphis. He'll be on these shitty little back road barbecue places wearing an ascot, and taking photos, and just, he has a similar cadence when he talks. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm like 2 degrees away from meeting him, I think.
Really?
I know people who know him.
Yeah.
And I've been in shows with people who photographed him and who they've photographed. He's photographed them. It's like, man, I love Memphis so much. It's like, one day I'm going to walk in the Lamplighter and he's going to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm finally going to get to meet him.
Or Ernestine and Hazel's.
Yeah.
I was in there one night at midnight, and it's still the creepiest thing I've
It's a
ever
weird spot.
seen. So where do you come down on Richard Prince?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I'll come down on him, but I don't.
He is.
I don't
one,
spend a lot of time with that.
He
I
is
guess.
one that is I get very angry because I come from design.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of it's like, that's just copying. That's
Yes.
literally just ripping off. Like, that's.
Some of it.
Yeah.
I know where you're going.
Yeah.
I put him in the same category like Damien Hirst or something.
Okay.
It's a product of that particular time. And
I
in
can
that
see that.
moment, photography was exploding.
Yeah.
And so was this, like Damien Hirst kind of stuff, where artists had staffs of people who are doing, they just tell them what to make and they go off to the bar or something. And I don't dig that stuff. My affection toward artists is mostly people who are compelled.
You don't like Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light?
I do like him for super ironic reasons. Like, I like that more than I like Damien Hirst.
Oh, okay.
At least that's focused.
Yeah.
And like true to itself. He has his own style. But he's also up there with like Ann Geddes or William Wegman. You know, look at my cute dogs.
There's a friend of mine that we argue. I've got two friends that they yell at me about art a lot. And because I have apparently a lot of opinions and they're not. Yeah. They say everything, if you say it's art, it's art. And I was like, I think some stuff is marketing and PR. Yeah. And just hip and just coolness. Like, so we were in Philadelphia and we walked past this painting that was just this glorious big landscape. And she's like, that's like a couch painting. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, that's something my grandmother would have above her couch. I was like, the fact that they painted that in that time period, that's insane. Yeah. And then we get into a room and it's Cy Twombly. And I literally looked at her and she said, this is my boyfriend's favorite stuff. I was like, fuck all of you. Yeah. I was so angry. I was like, you shit on that and you say this, you're out of your damn mind. Like, it just, I mean, that's why they yell at me.
Well, I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm on your team.
There is nothing to say,
but
and there is no right. There's
when
no
you
wrong.
get into
Whatever
like
speaks to you,
exactly.
Speaks to you.
There's that part which is hard for someone who's really trying to make a difference or make something new. Yeah. But I think what I've learned, looking at the scale of my art career, I can't talk shit. Oh. Thomas Kincaid made a lot more money on those stupid paintings than I did on my paint chip photos. You know, and that could just be a lack of trying harder for myself. Who knows? You know, I'm in one of these places right now where I want to make more. Yeah. But a lot of my creativity gets eaten up with wood. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like, oh, you should be making photographs. Why aren't you? And I'm all down on myself about, am I really an artist and all this shit? And then, but I took 2 steps back real recently and was like, but you make stuff all the time. Yeah. And you're a dad. Yeah. Like, that in itself is its own wondrous little job. Yeah. Photography is always going to be there. Just like skateboarding has always been there. It doesn't have to be your entire life.
And I also it's good that you still have that reminder and that fire to be like, no, I need to be doing it. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, then it'll never go away. Right. It'll always be there.
And on another end, I think that I need to stay current and do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, there are volumes of photographs that I'm over with for whatever reason. But people still haven't seen them. It's not like I've shown them extensively and published so broadly. So that my Instagram now is just churning through my favorite stuff instead of my brand new stuff. Yeah. It's like, look, here's a picture you may not remember or never saw. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. So a lot of people are like, I like all your new work you're putting on. I was like, you need to read the dates on that stuff. But, you know, I'm just recently moved my studio from there's a little basement room here upstairs. Yeah. So now I'm going through all these files of stuff I've packed away.
Oh my God.
So all this stuff's been churning up a lot lately. But it's an interesting life. But art-wise, like, compelled people are what really attract me. And people like Eggleston. Yeah. People like William Christenberry. Okay. You know, and you can look at my favorite people and see how it obviously affects my work. Okay. Because that's the thing I like to do. Yeah. I used to come home maybe twice a year, and I drove 3,000 miles around Kingsport one summer in 3 days looking for art.
Oh, wow.
You know, I would come down. This was my muse. Yeah. And that's another problem I'm having is now that I'm back here it isn't nearly as attractive as when you're in Wisconsin and you're kind of homesick.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
I did. So I was over in Asheville this past weekend at the Moth Light, and as I was walking out, I turned right as I was about to turn a corner. I saw a building, and there was craft paper up in the wall, like there was construction going on, and I could see over it. That's what made me stop because I just laughed. I was like, didn't go near high enough. I looked in. It's a big building. And I was like, I wonder what's going to go in here. But it's, over there in West Asheville, it's kind of a hipstery, cool kind of
place is
town.
booming.
And so I'm like, And then I look up, and there's all this old hand-drawn signage for, like, fridge with icicles. I was like, oh, that's going to go away. You sons of bitches. What are you going to build here? Like a brewery or a restaurant? Something lame? I was like, give me that shit. Like, I was getting so angry. So I posted about it, and I said, there should be... I was like, I wish there was a way to maintain these, or if like cities would embrace these and take these and do like. And one guy commented and said, I think cities should find like an old parking garage that's just going to have a big gray empty side and just litter it with all that stuff.
Yeah, but cities.
I know.
That means someone would have to. You'd have to staff the people installing it. You'd have to
do the maintenance.
Procure it. You'd curate all the stuff. Yeah. It becomes its own business. I've known people who salvage things like that.
Yeah.
And you do it a couple of times, and eventually you've got a storage unit full of things.
Yeah.
And you're either eBaying them or, it becomes a world market versus a local market.
Okay.
But it doesn't hurt to walk up and ask.
I should go back over there during the day and just be like, all right, what do you want for these? Because they're massive. And one of them, it's the hand lettering is so beautiful. I'm like, just on like the F in a furniture or something.
They may give it to you if you take it down.
Yeah.
It might be like, you
take
get up there and get rid of it. It's yours. It saves them the work.
Yeah.
They don't have to have their guys up there.
Yeah, trying to get it down. But I thought about that. I was like, man, how much? Because you were talking about going around and finding stuff. I end up doing that when I'm traveling. If I'm like, I drove from here to Springfield, Missouri, and a lot of it is back highways.
Yeah.
And there's one that went through this, that it felt like I was going through Dandridge or something. It was just all of a sudden, there's a bunch of little buildings and 2-lane road.
That is the basis of most of my work anyway.
Yeah.
Like the intellectual end of my photography began a long time ago with the woman I moved to Wisconsin with. Because I was in school at the time, so I was kind of having trouble figuring out what my work was about. That was a big conversation I had with Baldwin Lee when I was young that really set me off.
Yeah.
Because I came in with all this work that I was super proud of because I'd photographed all my friends who are musicians and other live bands and stuff. Every photographer ends up doing live bands, right? And that they were good compositionally, and to me it meant something. And the same thing with some skateboarding. I took photos of my friends. But he laid me out with these are great prints. What is it about?
Yeah.
And when you go into it with like, well, it's my passion of you get so emotionally hooked into the subject matter that you realize it doesn't have any substance, or it does have substance to you.
Yeah.
But as far as high art, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that has always struck a chord whenever I'm hitting the shutter. Because after that, I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and she was like, keep it simple.
Yeah.
He's like, you love cars.
Yeah.
Because I was all into hot rod magazines and stuff, and I do love automobiles of all kinds.
Yeah.
And she's like, you make it about cars.
Yeah.
And so the first few things I did a bunch, and also at the time, I still kind of want to be this guy, but it's harder because I don't have the facilities over there.
Yeah.
But I was all into like alternative processes, and like I love every aspect of photography.
Yeah.
Be it a Xerox machine.
Yeah.
Or a scanner as a camera.
Yeah.
Putting something on the scanner and that's your photograph.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is a camera. It's a digital camera, just really slow. Or going way back into cyanotypes or gum prints.
Yeah.
Albumins and things. So I was doing all these gum prints. I used a pinhole camera that I made a pinhole for my SLR.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 weeks working out what the actual aperture was and how
Yeah.
it would work. So then I wandered off and just took photos of cars, like for sale cars in the yards or
Yeah.
things like that, hood ornaments,
Yeah.
and made gum prints of those onto steel,
Yeah.
and then sanded it, salted it, got it wet, made it rust.
Oh
So
my God.
the whole thing is like a holistic deal. In the same portfolio, I did Polaroid transfers onto watercolor paper, but I did onto postcards, and I mailed them back to where the cars were,
That's crazy.
like without even telling them. It was like,
Yeah.
So, and I mailed a few to myself.
Yeah.
So until they were postmarked, the art wasn't actually finished.
Oh my God.
You know, like that kind of compelling.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the compulsion of like
Yeah.
this. So I think my brain always goes super systematically,
Yeah.
which might help me in this current occupation.
But it also could be like you were talking about not getting in photography. It could be like because it's 37 steps. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not doing
It's
it because
harder.
I have to do 37 steps.
Part of my problem right
Yeah.
now is the fact that 3 years ago my G5 died,
Yeah.
and that was my it ran my scanner. I've got an Epson 7800 down
Yeah.
there. It ran the printer. It ran the
Yeah.
scanner. It housed all my hard drives. It just stopped.
Oh my
Kernel
God.
panic gone.
Yeah.
It's dead. So now I eventually got a laptop. So my work is so based on my equipment, which is 2007 equipment, that I got the scanner going. The
Yeah.
printer has been down in my office so long, I believe the nozzles might have a little mold in them or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing all kinds of nozzle cleaning, or I was for a while, and I kind of stopped because I was going to run out of paper or ink.
Yeah.
Each ink for that thing is $100.
Oh yeah.
You know, so everything I want to do art-wise, it
Yeah.
requires the machine that I was using so much 13 years ago
Yeah.
or 10 years ago
Yeah.
that I feel stunted. It's either come up with a new system or dive in and really work on these. I don't know. And I'm sort
Okay,
of setting
I'm going
my-
to go back to
you know
an
what I mean?
off-mic conversation about TVs. Because the printer you can buy now for $400
Well,
is going to be
it's
like.
not going to be better than that one.
You don't think so?
It's an 8-ink,
Oh,
24-inch
geez. Okay.
printer. It's
Sorry.
It's
Never
what they
mind.
use it.
I'm thinking about the ones now. Like I've got friends that are illustrators now that they bought these printers that can do up to, I think 14 by whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
could
they're-
get the
and
small
they're-
version.
and they're solid printers and they're affordable to where they ran off each one of them, or one of them, the one that lives in Chicago. She ran off like, let's say 20 prints, and the printer paid for it. Like it
Yeah.
was one of those things. Like,
I mean, the printer has paid for itself.
Yeah.
Because when I had my studio in Milwaukee, I was it wasn't running constantly, so I was doing printing for other artists around town,
oh, okay.
and I would sell it per square foot or whatever. Or
Yeah.
since I had the little gallery going, I did an edition of prints for a painter
Yeah.
who once he sold his paintings, he didn't have them anymore, so he wanted to still have some sort of income coming in from his work.
Yeah.
And so we did short run editions of every time he sold a painting, I would do the digital capture and sell it, and then print them and house them for him and take a percentage when they sold.
Okay. Nice.
So the printer has paid for itself. It was
Yeah.
it was like $3,000 over time. Plus
Yeah.
my own art sales have paid
Yeah.
for it. So it's not like, I guess where I'm going is like it could be thrown away,
Yeah.
but it's such a big investment, a big
Yeah.
machine that it feels weird. But I
Yeah.
also can't really afford to call an Epson technician to come and clean it out
Oh,
right now.
God.
So it's one of those, it's just a stunt.
Yeah.
I can still get to the point of printing.
Yeah.
There's other work that I've been doing where I would, it goes back to more of these, maybe I overlayer my work to avoid success.
I'm glad I could be here to help.
You know, I mean, it's not like the first time I've thought about it, but I was in all the travels, there's certain images of old dead signs,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, an empty marquee or something
Yeah.
that don't necessarily fit with the broader theme. Like we've kind of gotten off the cars thing, but we'll get back there.
Oh no. Yeah, that's fine.
And I call them ghosts.
Yeah.
And what I would do is print them onto print like Reeves BFK.
Okay.
Or at first I would scan the negative, switch it to like infrared or a black and white, and manipulate a little. Print it onto Reeves BFK, then take it to the drawing board, make marks on certain aspects of the drawing, and use Prismacolor to color it by looking at the screen of what's really there and hand drawing it.
Yeah.
Scan it again to beef up contrast, then print it and mount it to wood.
Oh my God.
And cover it with shellac. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's taken another step to where now I make the frames around the wood mounted and pour resin over it for glass.
Yeah.
We can go inside. I'll show you one later. But there again, I can't do any of that without the printer.
Without the start.
The original print.
Yeah. Is that?
But because I really want to do those. I love that those ghosts seem like, I don't know, it brings in everything that I like about my life, maybe. Like photography, a little bit of drafting work.
Yeah.
Like making things with wood.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. They're like, they're very unique. And my idea was to do 25 for a show, a total of 50.
Yeah.
And then make make portfolios of them that are hand bound with leather cases.
Okay.
And if you could buy one off the wall,
or
you could buy a portfolio, and there would only be like 25 portfolios.
Okay.
And once they're all gone, they're gone. And then seal up the box of the original drawings and give it to a museum.
Okay. Oh my God.
Because they're only this big, but I'm printing them this big.
That's crazy.
Another holistic kind of box checky art crap that I try to do.
I have an old envelope box sitting in my office that all it is full of is Post-it note and strips of paper with sketches and ideas, and just like literally it'll be one line. This would be cool. You know, it'd be like yada, yada, yada. It goes in the box.
I've got a cigar box full of scraps of paper that I find on the street.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that might be. It could be like the ticket you get at the parking garage, or like a raffle ticket.
Yeah.
Or even a cardboard box has the printer who printed on the cardboard box. There's like the little test color strip.
Oh, yeah.
If it has numbers or an odd design to it, I keep those.
Yeah.
Scan them. Go in and erase any information that tells you what it was.
Yeah.
Like words, and just leave the numbers.
Yeah.
Print those big onto Reeves BFK.
Oh my God.
It's another, like, why? Somehow it just struck me.
So I collect the tickets from the garages, and every once in a while you go into Locust Street and there'll be a stack at half an inch thick. And I always look at it and go, I want to do like city scenes, draw little city scenes on these tickets. I was like, plus because I have 500 of them, I can screw up a lot and figure out what I really want it to be before it matters. And I've even started collecting them when I go out of town. Of like, here's one I got in Chicago that's a different size and different. You know, that for photography, the thing that and I actually did a show of this. Anytime I find a cigarette pack just laying on the sidewalk or anywhere, I take a picture of it and I capture it with somebody done lost their smokes from Friday. And I'm up to like 50, I think now, to where it's like, and they're all black and white. I make them all, and I find them in the weirdest places. And my buddy Tommy, every once in a while, will be like, dude, keep that up. He was like, that's nuts. He was like,
I think all this matters.
Yeah.
I just showed these to my buddy. I forgot I had them. I used to work in a photo lab in Madison. And I don't know if you've ever, I mean, it's kind of a dead thing now, but used to be when you drop your film off. Yeah. They had a sticker with a number on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like when they develop your film, they put the number sticker on the envelope, and they put it on the very beginning of the film when it goes through the machine, so you know which package it goes in. They print that picture with the number. They just don't put it in your bag.
Oh,
it gets thrown out.
Yeah.
I've got hundreds of them.
Oh my God.
And it's like, you know, it's like when you open your camera and light hits it, it's just weird colors.
Yeah.
Because it's just exposed film, but it has this sticker and it's numbers backwards.
Oh man, that's neat.
With like a
Yeah.
rainbow behind it, and they're all different. Or the first cut where it's just
Yeah.
light leak.
Yeah.
I have a pile of those. What am I doing with these? I've had this idea like, I can use them for something. I'm gonna
Yeah.
scan them all. Or it's just it's me embracing another aspect of photography that.
But you said resin that made me think of this. So my buddy David Gailey, who does woodworking, he had this idea years ago. He's like, I want to build coffee tables, but I want people to bring me something that's important to them. And lay it out on the coffee
Nice.
table and then do resin over the top. And he was like, you go to so many concerts. I would love to do. And I was like, I probably wouldn't do that because I still have every concert ticket, every
too.
movie ticket. I was like, if I want to do that, I was like, I've been collecting. God knows, I started out collecting because I saved the good ones. Now I just save them all. It's cigar wrappers. And I was like, I would love to figure out what board size it needs to be, and I'll do it, and I'll just glue down every cigar wrapper, and I'll do like colors, like here's gold, here's red, here's, you know, do something like color block them.
I think all this matters for some reason.
Yeah.
Like it's compulsion, and it's personal. And I think this is, like we were talking about before, this is what cute babies dressed up as watermelons doesn't have. You know, and this is what lights coming out of the headlights on a landscape on a snowy day at Thomas Kincaid doesn't have.
Yeah.
It's pretty. It's cool. And if that's your idea of art, go with it. Take it.
Well, that's, I get,
But it's not what you and I are into.
well,
you know.
but I will say it's funny because like one of my friends, she gives me shit for liking Norman Rockwell. And I was like,
Why?
I
He's
think,
genius.
I was like, and she was like, he paints in America that didn't really exist. It really, I was
not
like,
really?
I was like, have you seen something? Like, you're out of your, anyway.
How would she know?
I went
How old
to-
is
yeah,
she?
Yeah, she's not. I went to an exhibit. Also, there's an exhibit here, like in '98, and they brought one of my other favorites. Well, it's that two of my favorites are huge, like MC Escher and Norman Rockwell.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the technical aspect of
Yes.
their.
I think
of
that's
their
my
pieces are
that's what draws me to it. It's
amazing.
like Vargas.
Yeah, yeah. Or
You know?
my other favorite is Piet Mondrian, and I was like, Norman Rockwell and Piet Mondrian are completely different. They could
Mondrian is so good.
they could not be. But I saw MC Escher at the KMA in like '98. They brought his prints here, and I literally drove to DC just to see Rockwell's paintings because George Lucas and Steven Spielberg own the largest private collections of Rockwell's, and they had the.
And that makes sense to me.
It was massive. And the best thing that came out of it is they had a painting of his, which was a Saturday Evening Post cover, where it looked like Pollock. It was a guy standing in a museum looking at a Pollock. That was his painting. So I read the little thing on it, and it was like, that's not a Pollock. That's Norman Rockwell imitating Pollock. And then it had a quote from Norman Rockwell. He's like, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And he was like, that man's a genius, and it frustrated the hell out of me not to be able to do it as good as. And I was like, holy shit, that's like mind blowing. Like,
that's why in all of the art that I want to make, I've never even thought to try to paint.
oh, painting is
It comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
it's a wicked beast. What I learned is you can always paint over a canvas.
Yeah, but to me, it's not even
Yeah.
about messing it up. It's about where do you start?
Yeah,
Like to me, I think my brain is so into systems.
yeah,
Like the camera makes total sense.
yeah,
There's all these numbers. They do all this stuff. There's a method to it.
yeah,
And it's really, I like the idea of being in such a tight structure
yeah,
and making something that is truly original or seems
yeah,
not thought of.
Yeah.
Just like, boop, like it's chaos,
yeah,
really. If you look at even just a normal landscape that I would shoot,
Yeah.
the world is chaotic.
yeah,
And I'm using this mathematical light catching device
yeah,
to turn 3D into 2D, which
Yeah.
is surrealism all in its own.
yeah,
But coming up with something like a Pollock,
yeah,
like people look at that and they're like, well, he's just throwing paint around. It's like, you do it.
yeah,
You do it and make it that good.
What is it? My 5-year-old can paint that?
Yeah.
That ended up being a documentary in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And the other part is, but your 5-year-old didn't.
Yeah.
That's
But you
another
did.
thing. Like
Yeah.
anybody can take a photo,
Yeah.
but you don't.
Yeah.
Again, I said take. I was talking to somebody, but I hate saying take photographs.
Yeah.
I say make photographs.
Okay.
I don't like taking pictures.
See, I like
But
saying,
you got to start there.
I think it's I think you hit on something that makes sense to me, that I was like, I love Sean, but there's some where I'm like, I know you don't like this, but that's fine. I was like, for some reason I had to capture this because it spoke to me, or it meant something to me.
Yeah.
I was like, it may not be cool, it may not be what everybody, but for some reason I had to take a photo. I felt compelled.
Well, also,
capture
I
this
think
moment.
there's a difference, and you have both things going on at once. Like I was talking at lunch with my friend who just started getting into photography, and I'm pretty stoked for him because he just been driving around with these little plastic Vivitars. Like, this
Yeah.
is my new, I love this. This is
Yeah.
fun. And we were talking about the art end of it, and he, I don't know if I went over his head, but I just kind of got charged and got really excited. And he's still learning how to use a camera.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I was like, well, do you think that you take pictures or do
Yeah.
you make photographs?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, right now I think I'm just taking pictures. Like, that's honest. Be there.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have to take pictures before you can make a photograph.
Yeah.
To me, I'm seasoned in the actual capturing part,
Yeah.
that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I know what I'm getting at. I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I think the whole second half of photography, which is what most people don't deal with,
Yeah.
is the getting it in people's eyes. And
Yeah.
that's a whole nother game. Like
Yeah.
going out and taking pictures is 5% of being a photographic artist.
Yeah.
Because you gotta get it printed. You gotta turn it into a piece of artifice
Yeah.
on the wall.
Yeah.
And now it's not a picture anymore. Now it
Yeah.
is a photograph. And then getting it there through editing or however,
Yeah.
it's up to you. That's a process too. And then you got to find someone who wants to show it or buy it, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's more than just click.
Yeah.
That is easy.
Yeah.
Especially now, you can do it with your phone.
Yeah. Well, that's, we talked about for a little bit of like, where is photography now? Because I feel like with like Instagram and Facebook and everything, what I was telling a friend was, you find this like nature photo that back in the day somebody would have had to climb a mountain, pull all this equipment, like me,
Glass plates on a donkey.
all this stuff to get up there and take this shot. And now we just scroll through Instagram and go,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to like that one. It's like, holy crap.
There's
man.
another level of my recent sort of, I don't know, recoil or dismay at my own art.
Yeah.
Is that with Instagram and with the new kids,
Yeah.
the younger kids, like I've been playing with cameras since 1987.
Oh, wow.
Like
Yeah.
I got my first camera when I was 12.
Yeah.
So this has always been a thing. But, there's the new film resurgence, just like the vinyl resurgence. Like
We're going to make fun. So I bought
I'm not going to make fun of it.
I bought a
just think-
camera on Kickstarter like 8 years ago, and I recently found a box, and it was a Lomo camera that just uses Fuji Instamax.
Yeah.
And I found it, and I was like, why am I not shooting with this? I feel like I should. So I put it, I'm going to Florida this weekend. I was like, I loaded up the film I had, and I was like, it's going to be all sunny and nice days. I was
Perfect.
like, this is going to be perfect for this. It's like, I don't know what I want out of it, but it's just like,
Well, I'm not making fun of
Yeah.
the actual resurgence as much as it never ended.
oh yeah.
Like certain people are treating film like they just opened a time capsule.
yeah,
Look at this weird stuff. I've got hundreds of rolls of film
yeah,
in the basement. Granted, film did get discontinued for a while. I mean, it's had its better days.
yeah,
Like back in, I've got expired stuff, but in like 07 or 08, they
Yeah.
discontinued my favorite film.
oh,
And that night, after I got off work, I sat at a bar on my computer and bought every roll I could find. It was like $400 or $500 worth of film. And
Yeah.
I still have it because I like this one film. 'Cause
Yeah.
It does what I expect it to do, kind of stuff. But where I was going is that since I've sort of, I call it, I've been on hiatus. Like
Yeah.
I haven't really been very active.
Yeah.
But in the time I've been on hiatus, other like younger photographers that are more social media savvy
Yeah.
are finding Eggleston. They're finding Christenberry. So there's all this work that anyone can see
Yeah.
that it sounds like get off my lawn shit, but like I made the same photo 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the resource to show it to anybody. And
Yeah.
now it looks like I'm reactionary.
Yeah. I get
And I
what
know
you mean.
that's not really true,
Yeah.
but there's a quick impetus in my head where I'm like, people are going to look at you like this.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to change my work or just not bother. Like,
Yeah.
But I'm also like, it feels like just maybe it's a Gen X, like I was there first kind of bullshit that.
I didn't apply filters.
Yeah.
I applied filters.
Yeah.
I didn't touch a button to apply a filter.
I had to go. But I did get in a conversation with a young photographer, and I say it now as a joke because
Yeah.
I think it's one of the funniest. With other photographers, this cracks
Yeah.
me up. I found out she was a photographer, and I didn't know. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, what are you looking at? What are you shooting and stuff? And then she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, lo and behold, I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
You didn't know that, but what are you doing? I'd like to hear about your work. Like, what
Yeah.
are you after? And she's like, well, see, it's different because I shoot film. And I think I was with
that
Peeps.
turn of face
I
and
know.
attitude is like, oh God.
I was with Peep Eye that night when it happened, and I just went, and so tell me what you're looking at. Like
Yeah.
the substrate, which was the photo lands on, isn't as important
No.
as what the photo is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of the end of the conversation. It was like, and I broke out. I had my Rolly 35 in my pocket and was like,
Yeah.
this thing shoots film
Yeah.
for the last 40 years. But it was a really funny, but it was a wake up call too. She was like, oh, but I was excited when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
When I first started like getting into it,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that spawned me to think differently about all aspects of photography because that's probably my branching point into well, what happened before this?
Yeah.
What happened before that? What if we just project like light boxes? I was really into
Yeah.
projected
Yeah.
images for a long
Yeah.
time, but
Well, I was going to say it's wild because I'm looking at the skateboards behind you too. Because like I didn't learn how to ride a bicycle when I was a kid because I learned how to ride skateboards when I was
Right.
a kid, and how big it was in the '80s, and then it was kind of underground and punk in the '90s, and then I felt like in the early 2000s it kind of disappeared.
it fell off real
and
bad.
and then all of a sudden they were like, "Oh yeah, we're building a skate park in Tyson Park." I was like, "What year is this? What are we doing?" And I
Right.
was like, "Holy shit, it's made a comeback!" And then I started looking.
Dude, it's
and
in the
it-
Olympics this year, man.
And it was just like, holy crap, it's actually back. And then a friend of mine got a new board, and I went over there and I got on. I was like, I am too top heavy for this. Oh, and it
not
was
really.
also I wear size 16 shoes, and he had a
You've seen
normal
big
si-
board.
He had So another friend who's a woodworker is like, I do goals on my birthday, and I'm like, okay, for this year I want to do this from age, 40 to 41. I want to do this. So my goal this year from 41 to 42 is to collaborate with 12 different people, and it doesn't have to be art. It can be like my joke is always building a deck. If you need me to help you build your deck.
Oh, I see. You want to insert yourself
Yeah.
into a thing. I
And
get you.
so my friend read that, and he was like, I want to build you a board that you can actually ride on. And I was,
You can ride a board.
Yeah, but-
you can ride one of these.
but he was just, I think it's comfort level on my end because
Yeah.
like my torso is longer than my,
Yeah, I mean they
Yeah.
are. I ride a pretty big deck.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest, but it's probably
yeah,
I could go smaller.
yeah,
But I like riding around on a coffee table.
yeah. But yeah, but I think about that, like, when you talk about vinyl, touch on vinyl, skateboarding, and like film photography. Like the vinyl thing also cracks me up because I used to go disc exchange. Here's where I sound like a back
used to
in my
work at
day.
disc exchange.
Oh, I've bought.
I'm one of those kids.
I I was never cool enough to work at Disc Exchange. I felt like, but I would
probably
spend
wasn't either. They let me in.
thousands of dollars there on. But I would buy vinyl in like the late 90s, early 2000s when it was kind of out of fashion. They didn't have the rooms for vinyl.
Yeah.
I would
It's there on
special
the wall,
order,
maybe. Yeah.
and it would be like $9 or $10 for a
Mm-hmm.
record. And I have like old, like Ryan Adams. I loved Ryan Adams in Whiskey Town. Every time he had a new album come out, I was like, can I get it on vinyl?
Well, it
And-
used to come out before the
Yeah.
CD did, and it was usually limited, but it was cheaper,
yeah.
and now it's twice as much. But
Oh, yeah, I see some of these. It's like a new album. It's $38. Like, you are out of your mind.
it's because CDs don't
Yeah,
sell anymore.
yeah,
This is the only physical form of music that's selling. It seems like.
yeah.
I spent 20 years collecting all kinds of records, and a few years ago I sold the majority of them
Mm-hmm.
on eBay and stuff. I made a lot of money,
Really?
and you're saying how it was like $10. I sold the first Modest Mouse record for like $500,
Yeah.
and I left the Disc Exchange receipt in it when
Yeah.
I shipped it off
Oh, God.
because I worked there. I got an
Yeah.
employee discount.
Oh, God.
I bought it for $6 and sold it for $500,
Oh, my God.
and now I could buy it again for $20
Oh, my. Oh,
because
yeah,
they
that's
repressed it.
true. Yeah.
So I don't care about the legacy thing.
Yeah,
I just happened to be in the right place when that record came out,
Yeah.
and that label doesn't exist anymore,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
it's super valuable. Same
Yeah.
thing with, like, Tom Petty bought me a Nikon
Nice.
because for the longest time, from Full Moon Fever on,
Uh-huh.
he only pressed about 1,000 copies on vinyl, maybe
Oh,
2,
okay.
of every record to the end.
Mm-hmm.
The first 8 Tom Petty records total are worth about $30 maybe because
Wow.
there's so many of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The rest of them are harder to find.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it. I just happened to have them all.
Yeah.
Right? So I sold them all for like $1,500 to one person.
Yeah.
And just shortly after he died, because this was right before he died too,
Oh, my
I
God.
dump them all for a bunch of money. They re-release 2 boxes of every record for
Oh.
$250 a piece. I think there's 3 volumes.
Yeah.
So for $750, I could buy every one of his records,
Oh, my God.
and they'll still sound as good and be in just as good a quality
Yeah.
as the ones I had before.
Oh, my God.
So it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
cashed in.
And you sold them right at the right time.
Yeah, I just happened to be right in the window.
There's-
Now I'm buying 1 record a month.
Yeah.
It has to be something I love. 'Cause
Do you
I
have a white whale?
Um,
Do you have something like that you...
maybe.
I have bands
I'd
that
have
I'm
to
like,
think about
I would
that.
like to amass all of their albums. Like the Everly Brothers, I would love to get every one of their albums. But
Well, there weren't that many.
yeah,
With the Everly Brothers, that was a time when records were singles.
yeah.
So actually buying like a collection of
Yeah.
hits is the same.
I think it's because there's like one song that I love a lot, and I can't find it on vinyl.
Huh.
It's that I wonder why
Where did you first hear it?
on
Like Spotify
digital
or something?
Spotify or something.
You know, it might be a B-side to a single.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
dig in.
Yeah.
You can look that up. You can figure out
Oh,
where
yeah,
it is.
Discogs. But there's, I think about that, but I also think about like around here, it's going to be harder to find Everly Brothers.
That's a surprise.
I was in Springfield, Missouri, in this amazing record store that I spent 4 hours in there.
Yeah.
And I could have spent 2 days in there. I found a stack of Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner, and they were all $6 a piece. And I took them up, I set them down, I was like, 2 things. You would never find this many in one place in Knoxville. Secondly, these would all be $30 a piece in Knoxville, if not more. I was like, so I'm buying all these. I'm not going to resell them. These mean a lot to me. Like, I want these. Like,
well, also, I mean, that just tells you how regional music can be.
oh yeah,
You know, all my time in Milwaukee, it seemed like that place. There's this Milwaukee-Detroit connection,
yeah,
and garage rock was huge,
Yeah.
especially when I was there,
Yeah.
hanging out with bands and stuff. And then I'd go somewhere else, and like, what are you listening to up
Yeah.
there? You know,
oh yeah,
we're listening to this.
Yeah.
You know, I forgot where I was gonna go.
Oh, White Whale. Do you have anything?
Oh, that's a good question.
I will say, there's one album I would like. I don't want to repress, but I don't need a first pressing. I just want an old copy of it, and it's Dexter Gordon's Our Man in Paris. Because I love the photo, I love the layout of the cover.
Yeah.
Because all those
Is that a Blue Note record?
all those old Blue Note covers, and I've got a book on just about the art of Blue Note, but that cover, I don't know what it. I was like, but I don't want to repress. Like, I actually want one with a little bit of roughness on the like.
I mean.
But
I could probably contact people that might be able to find it for you.
But
I know a couple of people that own record stores.
$300 for that, like,
right?
Yeah,
and
it's also kind of the joy of the find.
The dig is the thing about vinyl.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's making it really fun right now. It's like I have this record cabinet that might hold 300, and I have one bay that's still empty.
Yeah,
and I want to fill that.
Okay.
One record a month.
Okay.
And it's going to take me 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
To get that far.
Yeah.
And it has to be something I love.
Yeah.
Because used to, it was like, I was so into music, like, it was encyclopedic.
Oh, yeah.
And once Beck has a new record out. Oh, I guess I better go get it. I've got every other Beck record, and I was getting to a point where I'd spend like $200 at the record store, file them away, and go on with my day.
Yeah.
It was about collecting, and I don't think I ever listened to that last Beck record that I owned.
No.
I'm like, oh, yeah, this happened. Same thing with Modest Mouse. They put out one record, and I bought it and filed it and forgot.
Yeah.
And one day I was flipping, like, oh, yeah, I never even opened this thing. All right. So another constriction.
Yeah.
The system of deciding what records I have to own.
Yeah.
And it's getting into just so easy. Like ZZ Top.
Yeah.
Aerosmith.
I went
Waits, Nick Cave.
I was kind of disappointed how expensive it was. I was in Gatlinburg at Airmont. And we went over I was so excited to go over to that record store. I can never remember the name of it. That's in the mall. That's been there, Sound Exchange, something like that. It's been there forever. Okay. And it didn't used to be vinyl. It used to be, they'd have a few of vinyl in the back. They have a lot of CD imports from the UK, where you'd buy like a 9 Inch Nails single that there were 4 different versions of this single. This is the only one.
I used to love that stuff.
To where you would pay $18 for 2 songs. But now it's almost all vinyl. It's all expensive. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there combing through. I'm like, I'm not going to pay $28 for this damn record. Like, I'll find this at some used store for $5. And then I bought Sigur Ros's second album and The Sword's first album.
That's a good
I was like, these are ones that I will actually listen to.
Yeah. That Age of Winter track is really great.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's insane. I was like, these are the 2. And then once I found that, let's see, SI to SW. Once I found SW, I was like, okay, I'm good. I was like, I'm about to spend $56, so I'm ready to leave.
I think in some ways I appreciate the reissues because they're going to sound great.
Yeah.
And I don't care about provenance at this point. Like, I used to have the original first 2 Stooges records. I traded them in Milwaukee for the Sundazed reissues plus 10 other records.
Oh my God.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I just want songs, man.
Yeah. That's
I'm having a bad time lately. I keep going to a local used place, and almost every time I get a used record, the first song skips.
Huh.
And it's bumming me out. It's like, you guys aren't even checking anymore.
Yeah.
You're living high on this. And when I first started selling records, I mistakenly took them a lot of boxes, and they gave me an okay amount of money in the moment, but then I realized how much I could have made off those boxes and stopped, because the next time I came in, all my records were up top. Like, look what just came in for $50, and I'm like, you gave me $7 for that thing. No, I mean, it's the business. I can't blame them, but
my favorite one that I will find the most random stuff, because he has what he likes. So that stuff, he knows a lot about, but there'll be stuff to the side, is Basement Records out in South Knoxville. That guy is awesome.
He is awesome now.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet the old guy?
Oh, yeah. The old guy was awful. The old guy was
awful. He was
awful.
awesome and awful.
So
you just have to tolerate that awful.
The old guy, I went in there. I was trying to collect the Knoxville Grass albums, the bluegrass band from the 70s and the 80s. And I was like, at first I was like, I want to get these for my dad, because he only has like 1 or 2, and I know there's more. And he was like, "Oh, I can't keep those. Those are like $75." He's like, "I won't take anything."
This the old guy?
The old guy.
He was such a dick.
The new guy, he didn't know, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's $10 or something." And he was like, "Is that somebody?" I was like, "This thing is not worth $75. Not at all." Like
It is to him.
It
Like,
is-
He also, I used to go there a lot.
Yeah.
When I would come to town, I'd always go to the ATM,
Yeah.
get a certain amount of money, and go there
Okay.
to find collection fillers.
Oh yeah.
Like if there's one record that you probably couldn't find,
Yeah.
I bet he had one.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be slightly overpriced, but it's
Yeah.
going to be in really good shape.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you need that last Judas Priest record. He has it, or anything. You know,
Yeah.
like I'd always find there's one.
Yeah.
Finally, like I could. But God, man, I spent so much time in that store. He and I had a good relationship,
Mhm.
but it was mostly like, I know what you're about, and I
Yeah.
don't like you. You don't care about me. You just want
Yeah.
my money.
Yeah.
So you'll answer my questions. We talked a lot about music in there.
Yeah.
So he knew what he had.
Yeah.
But he would also be the guy who had every Metallica record, but he wouldn't put them out. He waited for record shows.
Oh my God.
This is before eBay and
Oh yeah.
before you could do it on the internet.
The Holiday
he
Inn
would
record
hold
shows.
things,
Yeah.
take them to record shows for super collectors, which is honest. But if you're looking for that Metallica record and you're willing to pay it today, why not put it in the store?
No, what
You know?
I thought thinking about is they start doing those pop-up record store sales at the Pilot Light, and I almost started punching two guys because I went through somebody and they had the Minor Threat album,
Yeah.
and I was like, I just want a copy of this, and it was $8 or whatever. So I went over, and of course, everybody who had a table, they're like, "Let me see what you bought. I'm just curious." So I'm looking through. And the guy looks at it and he's like, "You know this isn't a first pressing, right?" And I was like,
Oh, everybody kept saying it. Like
And
it
he was-
wasn't worth the music
and he
anymore.
was like, "You know this isn't a first press. I don't think this. Can I get it out? I don't think." And I was like, I know it's not. I just want to listen to it
Doesn't
on my
matter.
record player, like,
Right.
at home instead of on my damn iPod." And he was like, "Hold on. Hey, come here. This isn't a first." And the two of them started nerding out on this, and I almost went, "Give me my fucking record." It's like, I'm just going to pick up your box and walk your box out here because neither one of you can do anything to, like, stop being a dick.
Yeah.
Like, so
People get too much into the provenance, like I said.
the funny part is I had picked out 3 records from him. I literally looked at him and went and threw him back in there and walked to the next table and started staring. I was like, "You dickhead, you just cost yourself." I was like, "I just want."
Yeah.
Okay.
I made a worse dick move.
Oh God.
This was a long time ago too. Are you familiar with Rocket from the Crypt?
Oh yeah.
You know they put out that one record. It's like an EP. It's called "Cut Carefully and Play
Okay.
Loud."
Oh yeah.
The label is on the actual sleeve.
Yeah.
Like so the record is taped to the sleeve. You have
Yeah.
to cut it out
Yeah.
to play it. I found one for $5 at a record store
Uh-huh.
because I don't think they were familiar with how hard the record was to
Yeah.
find, and B, they just didn't know the music. So
Yeah.
it's an EP, $5. Who cares? Because
Yeah.
it looks like a white sleeved EP.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
Yeah.
look like it matters. And I bought it, and as soon as I'd paid and got my receipt, I was like, "Did you see what you did?" And it turns out they knew
Uh-huh.
because they were like, "Oh shit." Like,
Oh my God.
They just lost $50 right
Yeah.
there. I was like,
oh my God.
sorry, gotta go.
Oh
But
my
I shouldn't have even told her. You know, I was like, that was such a dick move.
On the opposite end, Dad was, I think, over here at Lost and Found, and there's one ELO album that came with, like mobile that you could pull out and put together.
Oh, sure,
and
yeah.
it made like a rocket ship, and I had it over my bed when I was a kid because my dad had that album, and I never listened to ELO as a kid. I
Yeah.
just liked the toy or whatever, and he was standing there, and some younger woman was it was somebody with a kid or something. You know, it was not like a 17-year-old. It was she was flipping through, and she pulled that up, and he was like, "You know what you won't find anymore? One of those with the thing still in it." And so she opened it up, and there it was. And he looked at her and he said, buy that right now.
Yeah.
Buy that for your kid. And so she picked it up and bought it. And the same thing, it's like $7 or $8. And he was like, he's still so excited that he got to tell somebody to get that.
Yeah.
That it had. I was like, that's a cool moment, man.
I think those things are more white whales than actual records. Like
Yeah.
the actual music for me.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to find another copy of Captain Beyond with the hologram.
Yeah.
Or I had a copy of Sticky Fingers that hadn't been unzipped ever.
Oh my God.
And that was cool.
Yeah.
Or get Appetite for Destruction with the original Robert Williams cover.
Okay.
Because it got pulled off the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But I also think of like, there was a record store on Cumberland Avenue for a minute. I can't even remember which
Underdog.
one. Underdog?
Was this in the 90s?
Yeah.
Underdog
And
Records.
it was massive.
It was right there next to the Torch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought,
Used to go in there all the time.
I think, every single one of Pearl Jam's album on vinyl. And I look at those now, I was like, I bet those things are worth a damn fortune. Because Pearl Jam Fords are nuts. Like,
Yeah. Shout out to Lisa Moreau. She used to work there.
oh, really?
Yeah.
It's that place was nuts because it was so big. And I only went in there a few times because I would just get lost. I would lose a day. It's
was a
like the
good
old
store.
McKay's on Kingston Pike where I
Yeah.
would lose a day just combing through books and stuff.
I would always buy 7-inches in there. They had a good. I was into so much like angular Steve Albini
Oh, yeah.
thumbnail and all that. So they
Yeah.
had all the touch and go hits. My radio show back then was all based around Albini and his production
God.
qualities.
Have you seen the, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It wasn't Sound City. It was the other one that Grohl did, the TV series.
Yeah,
It was really good.
it was really good.
The
I thought the songs were a little hokey.
I
Writing
don't,
a song for every episode.
I didn't like that he didn't let the city influence the sound of the music. I would love to have heard that a little bit more. Like he did have like Rick Nielsen play on it. But the one on New Orleans, I was like, I tell everybody, it's like, don't watch them in order. Watch the one on New Orleans because the one on New Orleans.
And they go into the
will hook you.
preservation
Yeah.
place there.
I was like, that one, the DC one, and the Chicago ones were the three that really stood out. The DC one was great. Like, it was nuts. I'm talking about Ian MacKay. So here, you'll
Talking about Ian
appreciate
MacKay and whatever that local music is. I always forget what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of
shoot,
reggae-ish,
yeah.
sort of dance hall.
Yeah. There's a guy I know that's a comic book writer that he was in a band with Ian in between right before Fugazi. He was in a band called Third or Three that he was the bass player. And he was in a band called Gray Matter that was a big DC punk band for a while.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Okay. See, this is how I do things. We're going to go back to cars.
Yeah, we've totally. I like this way of
See,
doing it.
I
Actually,
remember-
I've had that bookmark for a while.
Yeah.
Where I was
Yeah.
headed was.
Yeah.
It started with the cars and real obvious photos about cars, and then
Okay.
my architecture sensibility lends itself to paying attention to the pattern of how the car changed the way we design things.
Okay.
Like
Was it
houses
any
and
kind of car, or was it certain eras of cars?
No, just cars.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
because I'm more interested in the impact that the automobile has had on us
Okay.
versus, the photograph is cute because it's, it needs to be pleasurable to look at.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of talk about urban plight in a photo
Yeah.
that well. But it led me to not only looking at the automobile, but going from there to traveling all the original highways, seeing shuttered downtowns like you were talking about,
Yeah.
and then finding something beautiful in all this
Yeah.
detritus is
Yeah.
really what I was getting at. Because I say it to everybody, but it seems like no one really listens. I'm not good at taking pictures of people. I haven't practiced it. I don't like it. But, you go to like a family reunion or something, it's like, where's your camera? You need it. Like, I don't do that.
Yeah.
To me, the camera is the tool that makes my art. It isn't how I make memories.
Right.
And it's hard to convey.
Right.
So that's what the phone does. But I believe that all my photos are pictures of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's usually, the car thing leads me to the road that leads me to the space where I make my art. The art doesn't necessarily have to be about cars anymore.
Right.
It's about whatever catches my eye. It gets democratic once I find the place.
Okay.
And finding a sense of that place And it's usually what I'm attracted to would be, like you say, like a sign, the way they flourish the F, like a hand-painted sign or a wall mural or some mark of human existence in what seems to be a ghost town or somewhere where you wouldn't really see it. You know, like it could be, there's one in my house that it's one of my favorite photos. I took it when I was hanging out with my friend Matt. So in a way, there's a memory of, it made a memory. Yeah. But the picture is like, it's a bed frame covered in rusty bicycles with a car door. Okay. And it's like, someone placed all those things there. Yeah. And they've been sitting on the side of the road for how long? Yeah. And it's the road less traveled got me to this thing. Yeah. You know, there's a whole cycle to it. Yeah. And I believe that's where that starts with cars. Okay. And it's also the way homes were redesigned because of the roads. You know anything about it?
Oh, yeah.
I think I was keyed into because
I saw the Pixar documentary Cars.
That's not the same.
That was too easy. Yeah, this looks very serious. So the Pixar documentary Cars and Cars 2 and Cars 3.
And I think this all stemmed from architecture school. And I was kind of going toward a minor in urban planning for a minute. Okay. When I was I went to start at Clemson, then I went to UT after because it was cheaper. There was a lag of time before I was accepted into the architecture program. Okay. So I took 400 level planning classes and stuff. And so that clued me into different ideas of architecture based on how we decide cities work. When then it also taught me about cluster cities and how all these outlying places. So if you've ever, a lot of my night work, I call it night. Yeah. It was a laborious kind of task, but I would go to edge cities, kind of where sprawl stops.
Oh, yeah.
There's always a spot where the mini malls never got super developed because it's just too far from where people are, or the pattern of the city changed for some reason. Yeah. And make these really stark, minimal shots at night in those areas. A lot of digital manipulation to make it really pretty. Okay. I raced an airport and won. Okay. It's a funny story. It's been on a book cover and it sold pretty well, but it's just a fence, like a broken fence and a parking space. Yeah. But what was behind it was a full airport.
Oh my God.
So I'm painstakingly rebuilt a chain link fence.
Oh my God.
It's another one of those, I like doing this work. Yeah. But I get really into it. Yeah. And it takes forever. Yeah. But the end result's worth it. But it's when you see it on the wall, it's like, you don't have to know there was an airport there. Yeah. It's a pretty picture for what it is. And it's a test in some ways.
So when I was in school, our classes focused on one application, like Photoshop, Illustrator, Quark Express back then. They were not called Photoshop, Illustrator. It was called digital photography. Yeah. And this is before digital photography was even really a thing.
Yeah, maybe a 1 megapixel camera or something.
I still have a Nikon Coolpix 850 that's a 1.3 megapixel that weighs a ton.
I sold those.
It's heavy, but in it we had take photos, and I just had a crappy point and shoot that I think my uncle bought for me at Walmart for Christmas. That was probably like a $20, and it came with the camera, a case for it to slip in, batteries, and a roll film or something for a kit. And he was like, "Here, you're going to need this for this." So that's what I shot with all the time. I still have that. I still have it. And I shot this photo. I was driving down 640, going from getting off of 40, going towards Broadway. And there's just there's that weird interchange where all those interstates right at Merchants and Clinton Highway, all that
mess.
There's all that mess, and I just put the camera on top of the wheel and snapped 3 photos, and only one of them's good in focus, but you can see cars coming up from the on ramp, you could see all that. And in that digital photography class, one of our tasks was take a photo and do 7 things to that photo to manipulate it. So I went through and I was like, okay, it doesn't really have a sky. It was a dead sky, so I'm gonna give it I took like a gradient of blue to make a sky, but I made it look. I kept messing with the layers to get it to look natural. Greened up the trees, and then I turned one of the cars coming up on the on ramp from green to red, and then I removed the other one, and then I wrote in spray paint, "Earl loves Earlene" or something like that. And so I pulled up, and you had to pull up the original and the copy. And we went around, and people were putting 3 heads on people and doing all this crazy shit. And he got to mine, the instructor got to mine, and everybody was like, he didn't do anything. He just color corrected. And he was like, no, he did what you're going to be doing in the future. Mm-hmm. He's like, I can see. He did this, 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 and this. And he was like, all those are things you would really do. This is an A+. And and they were like,
of course, this is before memes.
Oh, yeah. And he was like, he did what would be real.
Right.
And I will go, of course.
Less is more. It's clean it up.
Well, for me, I had taken print shop for 4 years in high school. Of course this is what, because I already knew the real world implications. Yeah. I wasn't going to make somebody have faces on my shirt or some stupid.
And people get really up in arms if they know that you've manipulated it sometimes. Yeah. I think they're still on this fence that they think photography needs to be realism.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, you're looking at the world on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
None of this is real. How you get there is up to you. And again, back to making photographs.
Yeah.
How you want to present it.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
It's still the same photograph, but if I have one in the house, it drives me nuts. It's one of my favorites that I've taken in the last few years. But it's kind of a day like this where it was a winter day and there's some snow in the background. It's kind of a dreary look.
Yeah.
But the landscape in the background is still a lot of evergreens, so there's a lot of green.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But right here on the edge is a road sign. Just pops in, and it's that transport DOT green.
Oh, yeah.
And it just fucks with me. I'm like, because it blows this green. It's such a stark contrast to the the muted, more low contrast colors that I look for in my work. And there's this bing. So it's going to go away if it's ever sold or shown.
Yeah.
But it's the tiniest little thing. Or I like using really overcast days. And I overexpose my film a little.
Yeah.
So the skies go white.
Okay.
I love that look. Some people think it's
I'm the
cheating.
opposite.
Yeah, no. I love, but the way I layer the colors through the photograph, it makes sense to me because there's usually it's a 3-layered system. It'd be white, broad color, deep colors or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you do that, when you matte the photograph, the white of the matte becomes the sky. You can't even see the matte. So it looks good when it's framed.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, there's a little tree branch.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't know what it is, it looks like there's a hair in your frame or, there was something in my lens.
Yeah.
So those things get turned white because it makes an edge that shouldn't be there because I want it to be this wash.
It's not the end result you had in your head when you took the
You didn't notice in the camera.
Yeah.
So it's something that you can fix.
Yeah.
And as much as people are like, well, it's not really what was there, it's going to make the picture better.
I've had that discussion with a few different friends who's worked in editorial, and I was like, a lot of the photos I take, I don't know that they could technically be earmarked as editorial because it's a little off. I'm going to rotate it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do some color correction. I'm going to do some contrast correction. I'm going to do all these little things that are going to make the photo better, and they don't change what's in the photo. You know what I mean?
Then it's still editorial.
Okay.
You're just
I've been told
you're just changing the if you were putting those cannonballs there, or putting that skull in the desert, that's
okay.
That's
I got told
that's not
essentially by one editorial photographer is like, oh no, it needs to almost be straight out camera. Like you can do a little bit of.
It depends on the subject matter, I'd imagine.
Okay.
I'm thinking of the Cartier-Bresson did a portrait of Picasso, and Picasso wasn't particularly cool about it, but they're both French. I guess he's Spanish, but they were, they're hanging out, they're friends, but he's one of those but he wanted to, so he did one of those little moves,
Yeah.
got a great portrait. But if you look at the contact sheet versus the portrait, he had to crop it on an angle to pull him back up. I mean, it's same thing, but it's up to how he wanted to present it. But he had to get it in this off way, so it had to be tilted and switched.
Well, that was always my argument. It's like, no, I want to get this photo. I was like, and if I can't sit and set and do everything, if I just need to grab it.
Well, in editorial work, are they asking you for the
This
negative?
was just a discussion
Just
with
a
a friend,
talk.
because
at the end of the day, they just want the print.
because I couldn't figure out. I was like, what am I missing? Like, why would this? I think it was just like almost one of these talks.
Some people have too much purism.
Yeah.
And some people believe that photography is real.
Oh, there was a point where I remember everybody was in the early days of, I think even pre-Instagram, where they would do hashtag SOC, like straight out of camera, straight out of SOOC. And I was like, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like, why does that?
I think this lends itself back to, why you initially came here.
Yeah.
Like, people don't want to know how the sausage is made.
No.
If you, especially with art or builds, if they see your mistakes, that's all they see. And if you tell them about manipulation, then suddenly they get overrun with thinking about what did he do? What's different? It's better just not to say it. I mean, like, this is a picture. And that's when my whole theme on this, or for myself, is making photographs. I'm making the photograph I want you to see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you all kinds of stories about how I got there and where it is, but I'm not going to tell you how I made it.
Yeah.
Once it got to the wall, this is it. It's up to you to like it or not.
Yeah. I've got two friends that they do portraiture work, and they do a lot of front end work. Like, they'll sit and talk to the person for an hour. Like, what do you want out of this? Excuse me, all this. And then they bring in hair and makeup. They do all this work. But then still, when they take the picture, they still do a lot of Photoshop touch-ups. And Sean, I hate to keep bringing him up. I feel like he's an invisible person, but he was like, it's almost like a painting at that point.
Yes.
Like, it's been so touched. And I was like, but it's still gorgeous. I was like, oh, yeah. It's almost like they're bringing something out. It's mostly women. Like, it's two women friends, and they're trying to empower those women. And this one woman did a series, and Jasmine is a black woman, and she shot black women on I don't know what's she captured a picture of black women on a black background and made everything else, like jewelry or eyes or something, just pop out.
So it's really a
and
contrast experiment.
I was like, holy shit, that's amazing.
It
made me
that's
so
lighting.
excited. Yeah.
But, I mean, you gotta use the tools you have to make the thing you want to make.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the tools yet, figure out what you can do with what you have.
Well, I'm a dick because I always refer to people as blogger photographers, to where it's somebody who, I don't want to get down to one thing, but it's like somebody bought them a $6,000 camera.
Yeah.
And they read 3 blogs, and they're like, I'm ready to shoot weddings. It's like,
that's what digital did to us.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, it got me out of a good gig, digital did, for that reason.
Yeah.
Because I was still using an hourly rate to shoot events and at a film rate.
Yeah.
Like, there was a roll rate, because they'd be like, well, I can hire you, but you can only shoot 2 rolls. So I had to be very conservative about, it's like, it was at the museum. So it would be like openings or private dinners or things like that. But then comes digital, and they're like, well, can you do digital? I'm like, I'm not there yet. I don't think I want to. Because I worked at a camera store at the same as well, and it was kind of like, it's not ready for me. Like, I don't want to invest in all that, because I'm still fancied myself an artist, and I was using film. This is what I know. So I got bumped because some guy could do it for what cost me $150. He could do it for $60 because he didn't have a roll rate.
And he would probably provide them with 100 more photos, because he could just snap.
Because it didn't cost. And that's why Thompson looks like it looks now.
Yeah.
That's why they only run a machine once a week, because people aren't, I mean, it has its good and bad. For professional editorial work, digital is the best. You can change film speeds in camera.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, oh, I got to change the back.
Yeah.
You know, I brought 4 different films and all.
I can remember it
changes the game.
Two things. So there's one article I saw recently where an artist, and I can't believe it took somebody this long, and it may have not, but this first person I've seen, they started painting the security people in the art museums. They're like, these are the people who are immersed in such a part of that culture. It's like, that's brilliant. It's like, because it's usually people who are not super into art, you know.
And you could expand that portfolio too. I mean, once you get done with that, you could go into parking garages or
janitorial.
Like, you know, people who make the sausage.
Yeah. I thought about that when you were talking about people who worked the front desk who didn't even care.
Yeah. The front desk people did care.
Oh, okay.
It's the people up in the offices.
Oh, okay.
The development staff or the senior VPs they don't care about art.
Yeah.
They work at a nonprofit because they got into it through this other career. And they didn't come there for the art. They came there to get a job done.
Yeah. So my grandmother and her sister worked for Thompson Photo. Yeah. That's what brought them to Knoxville from Kentucky, because all the boys were away at war in World War II. And so they worked processing film, and it was just tons. And the Thompson brothers would actually let them use their cabin in the Smokies. The girls, on like Memorial Day weekend, they would just let all of them go up there. So my grandmother, we have all these old photos. I was like, I don't think the Thompson brothers shot this. I think other women shot this, but it's all these insane shots of the Great Smoky Mountains, like in the 30s and the 40s. Wow. And I keep telling my dad, I was like, I want to get those and scan those and start like an Instagram account and just start posting those things. Like a friend of mine did that he found his grandfather's slides. Nice. So he created an Instagram handle called like Forgotten Slides, and he was posting, and then he just stopped posting. I was like, I want to see those. Like I want to, but so I also got to go to the library and see video where they had shot film of the Thompson brothers in like the 20s, and it was 20s and 30s, and it was them. They were avid hikers. Mm-hmm. They were a big reason why the Great Smoky Mountains is a national park, but a lot of the film footage was logging was still a thing. Yeah. So it was just bare mountains. And same thing with the library. I need to contact the librarians. Like, have you given that footage to Tamas to put up on Vimeo or something? Because people need to see that. People need to see that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Especially right now.
Less than 100 years ago. Oh, yeah. Less than 100 years ago.
They're going to start logging it soon.
Seriously.
Might go back to that.
But anyway, that was things I need to get out before I forget. Yeah, but my grandma, like, it was crazy. Like, oh, yeah, she worked for Thompson Photo. And then I went in there to buy a tripod. I was like, I just need a quick tripod. I'm going on a trip. And they're like, well, what do you want? I was like, I just want an easy tripod. And they're like, well, no, you got to get this and this and this. And they start talking down to me. And I looked at them. I was like, I'm going to go to Target now.
Yeah. No.
And I walked out and went to Target. I was like, I don't stop talking shit. Stop talking like shit to me, man.
It's a bad thing about a lot of camera stores. I used to work in one or I worked in a couple. Certain people would be super sales oriented, and certain people would be more, what do you need to do?
Yeah.
This will do it.
Yeah.
You can get away with this one.
Yeah.
Same thing with cameras. It's like, what do you need the camera for? You don't need to buy a D5 and a $300 lens where if you're just going to shoot shit on Instagram, use your phone.
That guy was wanting me to spend like $600 on like a head and I was like, you're out of your damn mind, man.
One of my favorite cameras I have in there. I like, as much as I usually shoot big negs, like a medium format. I love like pocket shoots, not so far down into like plastic Vivitars and stuff, but
that's like the one
an XA or a Epic or something, like a really good lens in a small package that's just like, one of them that I have is this Olympus RC that an old lady came into the camera store. Her husband had died and she had this camera and she didn't know how it worked. It's from mid-70s, I think. And my affection for it was like, this is great.
Yeah.
And I showed her everything about how it worked. Like, this is a really fun little camera. That's cool. And she's like, well, thanks. And she sort of got it. But then I came to work one morning and my boss was like, oh, there's a camera for you in the back. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, this lady came in. She said, you really love this camera, and showed her how to use it, but it's still just too much.
Yeah.
So we sold her on a more automatic thing.
Yeah.
But she said you could have it because you seem to love it.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, what a sweet woman. And I still have it, and I'll never get rid of it. It's one of my favorite cameras and lenses.
Oh my God.
It's so much fun.
So I've got,
and it has its own Instagram page now, I've learned.
really.
Like it's a deal.
Oh
Like
my God.
everybody's
Okay.
looking for these things.
That's funny.
I have 2 in there, and one of them doesn't work. But if something happens to the one, I've got a parts car
That's
in
funny.
case the repairman needs. I'm like, I got this one.
I've got to eventually. So I told you off mic about the messy basement. I've got 500 antique cameras down there.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I was curious.
Oh,
What you
did
had.
yeah? Like it's
I didn't know if we were
everything.
going to get into this talk or not.
I have. Well, you saying that I have my uncle's Polaroid land camera that he took to Vietnam with him.
Is it the SX70?
It's the big one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The big movie one.
but it. Or
like
no,
has
no.
a bellows.
Does it have a bellows?
I don't know.
I can't even remember. I think it has a small bellows. I don't think it has a big. I think
Okay.
it's the one that drops down.
All right.
Or no.
Is it like the case and you pull it?
No, it's like the big plastic honker that's
Gotcha.
like that.
I know what
big.
you're talking about.
I was like, but this thing went through some shit in Vietnam.
Mhm.
Like that one.
And that's a
same
hard
thing.
one to
Yeah.
wander around with. It seems
Yeah.
like a Pentax K1000 is a better move
He
in wartime.
He worked. Oh God, the story's about him. He worked in the shoots. What's it called? Cars, motor pool.
Mhm.
And he told me, he was like, you got your card with all your information on it, and on the back it said what you were approved to drive. He's like, mine, I had to roll it out. I was approved to drive so much, and he showed it
wow.
to me. He's like, I was like, there's a tank on here. And he was like, I was like, did you know how to drive a tank? He's like, nah, but I was approved to drive one. I was like, oh my
Wow.
God.
That's
Like,
fun.
that's him. So
But would
that's why
he
had the
wouldn't
big
to drive it to battle, or would it be like he was allowed to pull it out of the lot,
one. He was allowed to do whatever
drive him
he
off
wanted
the
to.
ship?
Yeah, but he worked in motor pool, so he wasn't. He was deep in country, but he was the guy running.
That's-
He's the one who knew
it's
how
a
to
bit
work
of luck, I guess.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, his luck is like Ted of '68. He was there a week before it happened, and then just so happened him and another guy switched places. So he would have died in Ted of '68. Like, I think about that a lot. Like two of my uncles, my dad's 2 brothers, they were in hairy shit in Vietnam. And when it was time for dad to go, because they all got drafted, 3 boys,
Yeah.
only 3 kids, my grandmother's like, you're not going to take all 3 of my boys at the same time. So she and her pastor at Broadway Baptist wrote to John Duncan Sr. and got my dad deferred to go to Korea as a chaplain's assistant instead of going into the shit in Vietnam. And I told that somebody the other day. I was like, I'm literally a miracle. Like, I could not
Yeah.
be here. Like, my dad could have gone in the shit and died. Like,
Me too. My
like-
dad went. He had a pretty bad time, I guess. He's since passed on, but
yeah.
the stories I've heard is he saw some pretty bad stuff, and it affected him. He
Oh,
eventually
yeah.
committed suicide,
Oh, my God.
but I don't know real details.
They didn't start. So I have uncles with air quotes that are all like my dad and uncle's friends that are in the inner circle that they've known since they were kids. And one of the guys, he's still affected. He was he was a smaller guy, and he was one of the guys that went in with a pistol and a flashlight into the tunnels.
Oh, into the holes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like, and he came back, and Mom was like, he was always shaking, and he would finish one cigarette by lighting the next one
Well, that's
and
gotta
drink
be
like
horrible.
crazy.
That's some Willem Dafoe.
And the other uncle, one that has since passed, he passed of a heart attack. He was in the Air Force, and I was like, this is shit out of a movie. He was in a valley, they landed, and the pilot said, I'm going to open the door. You need to just take off running because I don't stop.
Right.
And he landed, and he turned, he threw the mail out the window, and my uncle had to run out the back
Yeah.
because snipers.
Gotta
And
get
so
out.
him and his buddy would sit with chairs like this and watch the snipers try to take out the plane.
Did you watch the Ken Burns thing?
I started, but it's so
I
hard
did a
to.
lot of crying during that thing. I didn't
It's-
even think it would affect me like that.
Yeah.
We
But they didn't start telling those stories until, because you're from here, you'll enjoy this. I was like 12 or 13. We were sitting at Quincy's on Broadway. Quincy's was, do you remember Quincy's? It was almost like a Ryan's before Ryan's.
Oh yes.
So it was sitting there right past 640, and we were sitting there before going to a football game, and we were sitting around, and all of a sudden, four of those uncles start talking about Vietnam and start talking about that shit. And Dad and I walked back to the car, and he was like, "That's the first time they've ever mentioned that shit." And this is like late '80s.
It seemed
He's
like a
they did
thing.
not talk about that thing.
I mean, I think that's, from what I've heard, that's what affected my dad so much, was everybody didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because they were afraid that the soldier didn't want to talk about
Yeah.
it, and then we didn't know anything about PTSD,
Yeah.
or we didn't really
or
know
Agent Orange.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that we did wrong. I say. But,
Yeah.
So I just think people ignoring it made it worse.
Oh yeah.
Or created this generation of men who are just like, bad shit happens.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then that leans into the next Generation X.
Yeah.
Like people not even understanding their fathers anymore. So
Yeah.
in a way, I think I'm better off
Yeah.
that I didn't have to deal with that shit. I was only 2.
I've got one of my buddies, his dad was over there, and he was older than our family. He was one of the guys that would go and make the bridges for the soldiers to go across. So he was deep in country to where there was nothing.
But he's making infrastructure for the battles to come.
Yeah.
Which is
him and his trooper are having to fight people that are
right.
And he said he never said anything. And then he was out mowing the lawn one day. His dad was. He walked in, and his mom was sitting there, and he was like, "Damn, it's hot out there. It's like Vietnam out there." And he said she just stopped. And she was like, "It was hot in Vietnam." He's like, "Damn, it was hot." And then he just took off to the bathroom, and she was like, "What just happened?" And this is like 1992. She was just like, "What just happened? Your dad talked about Vietnam." And my buddy was like, "What all he say about it?" And she was like, "I don't know." He just literally did a pass by. It was like, his dad died, and he was like, he never said anything more about it.
Yeah.
Just didn't talk about it.
I don't know any stories he had.
I told my cousin
mom's going to listen to this.
I told my cousin we're going to have to sit down and start telling stories about my dad, his dad, and our family, just to keep them, because we keep forgetting things. I'm like, I was like, and we're going to have to bury that. No, we are going to do it. I was like, we're going to have to bury that podcast because some of those stories cannot get told. I've been playing poker with my dad and uncle since I was
just have the files.
8 years old.
Doesn't have to be a podcast.
There were so many stories that end with my dad going, "Don't tell your mama," which I still love.
I've got those stories, but it's more like being on a 3rd-story roof, cleaning gutters with a stick and a glove.
Oh my
looking
God.
down. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Mine is
Don't tell the wife.
My dad and uncles in a strip club, and the story that happened in the strip club. Nothing nefarious other than
just the fact that she's at a strip club.
Oh no, there were stories like they put their heads into a wall.
Wow.
Because there was a woman on the table in front of them, and 2 of them were talking, and all of a sudden everybody yelled at them, and they turned, and her hoo-ha was this, like, within an inch of their face, and they both did that.
What's a hoo-ha?
You said your mom's going to listen, so I'm trying to clean it up.
Moms don't have hoo-has. They're pure angels.
Those 2 guys, my dad and one of his friends, who is a highfalutin guy here in town, put their heads into the walls.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking on that, I don't think you need to clean anything up for my mom. I talk worse to my mother than most boys should. But I mean, I feel that we've been friends for a long time.
Oh, okay.
If she hasn't figured it out by now, I'm kind of crude.
In our family, it was always just don't cuss around Granny.
Yeah.
And then for me, it was like, you don't get to cuss around us. You can do that out there.
Shit, I think
we don't want to know
my
about
granny
it.
cussed as much as I do.
Oh, my granny was 5 foot, 95 pounds, and the toughest one out of 6'2", 6'3", 6'7". It was like, nah, she's the scary one.
My mother's mother always said her first birth control was a shiny rock. Be like, what? You hold it between your knees. You can't get pregnant.
Oh my God.
Shit like that. It was like, I love you, Mama.
That's a lyric. That's a good lyric.
Yeah. Or like,
that's a Loretta Lynn
tables
lyric.
are for glasses, not asses. You know.
Oh my gosh.
She was a whip.
Okay, so we've kind of gone a little bit everywhere. Let's go back to woodworking. Okay. So you were in architecture school. You were doing kind of pickup construction work. You're the maintenance something at the Oliver.
Yeah, I was maintenance manager or preventive maintenance, whatever they call it there.
And you said people just kind of So from there, you got enough clients to then step away from that.
Well, what would happen would be people from Knox Mason, of all places,
Okay.
because that was almost my first job in town where I had a face. I
Okay.
started making
Yeah.
friends outside of my normal circle.
Yeah.
They would bump into me like, "What are you up to?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm over at the Oliver now." They thought I was bartending at the
Yeah.
Peter Kern
Yeah.
every time. I'm like, "Oh no, I do the maintenance work." I like, "Oh, you do stuff like that? Well, we need
Yeah.
blah 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 blah." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I can come over and do that for you." And so the client list started growing based on people that I'd known before, and then, as it still is, people I've worked for hear someone needs something and they throw my number at them. Most
Uh-huh.
of my clients come from,
Referrals.
yeah, it's all word of mouth. I'll get a
Okay.
text message. "I got your number from this person because they said you did this.
Yeah.
We need this. Do you do that?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Sure." I'll come look, or,
Yeah.
we start to talk. Sometimes I don't do the job they need because of, either licensing or whatever, but
Yeah.
there might be something else in the house they need that I'm more suited for.
So as you've gone from that kind of work, you do that. Do you feel like kind of moving or shifting into woodworking got kind of scratching more of the artistic itch?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think it filled the void,
Okay.
because like with Sean's thing,
Yeah.
they just told me what they needed.
Yeah.
They had no idea what
Yeah.
it would look like.
Yeah.
And they just let me loose. Most of my clients just trust, and I get to throw my aesthetics at stuff.
Okay.
And then over time, I get stuff on Instagram or whatnot, and people get to see sort of what the things that I like to build. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of cantilevers. I like the metal angle roofs versus a pitched roof.
Yeah.
So that's where I think my creative itch gets
Okay.
scratched a little bit, because I get to decide. And usually the client's super stoked on what shows up.
Yeah.
I try to talk to them like, "What do you think about this?" But a lot of people aren't. The reason they're calling me in the first place is I say, but most people aren't versed in these things.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that I took for granted in having all this education in
Right.
design and art. Like, it all just comes together. Like,
Yeah.
I look at the world aesthetically for most of the time, but I also look at the world in how is it put together,
Right.
and it all just sort of falls into place. But most people don't do that.
Okay.
Most people need something. They can buy one or they can have one made, but they have no idea how to facilitate it.
Right.
And sometimes I think my art museum experience even helps with that, because I had to be really resourceful in finding a supplier for tickets.
Yeah.
Or, I think I've always wanted to be a concierge at a hotel.
I was thinking more of like Red's character in Shawshank Redemption, the guy who can
Yeah,
get you the thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with life experience too.
Yeah.
Like all the many jobs that I've done, and
Yeah.
I've never really had a career,
Yeah.
and I've always been somehow in service of others.
Yeah.
And even as a bartender in Milwaukee, a person comes in, has a couple beers, you start a conversation, and they say, "Man, where would you get something like I kind of need this." Like,
Yeah.
"I know a guy." The next night you introduce somebody, "Oh, this is a guy who has a scaffolding. You
Yeah.
need your house painted, right?"
Yeah. This is your guy.
You become the guy. Like, you don't actually do it, but you know how to facilitate things.
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing at the art gallery. Like, I now make my own frames, but I know where to get the cheapest mat board, and where
Yeah. I
I was starting to get like bulk discounts on
Okay.
materials that
Yeah.
I needed,
Yeah.
but I could also shop it out and make a profit if I matted a picture for a client
Yeah.
with my own mat board. I could double the price and make money.
Okay.
I mean, and that lends itself to this stuff.
Yeah.
People need a deck. Anyone can build a deck. But not everyone has a miter saw, a
Right.
circular saw, a nail
Right.
gun, or an idea of the pattern of structure that's going to hold it up.
Yeah.
They can look at one and probably fake it, but it's
I
in
think
here.
also the efficiency thing, the where it's
Yes.
this is if I did it, it's going to take me 2 weeks to do it.
Right.
When I have time, if the weather's right. Whereas
Exactly.
you,
Well, I
can
mean,
be
it's the same thing for me because
Yeah.
I'm alone,
yeah,
but I have a knowledge of what it takes.
Yeah.
I don't have to like look it up in a book.
right.
I can just crack one. I keep looking at my deck. It needs to be redone. We got to tear that thing down.
Which now I keep thinking about mine. I was like, that's part of the reason why I bought my house, because it's got this big deck on the front, but it's got built-in benches on
Oh
both
yeah,
sides.
one of those like ding.
Yeah, and I keep
That was a
looking
good
at
thing
that
in
and
the
going, and when I was talking earlier about the buddy group, that one of the guys in the buddy group, I was like, what we need, I was like, what I would love to do is to extend this so it takes up more, because it sits under this big tree that no grass can grow underneath that tree. Just no grass ever grows there.
Well, you know that same situation is going to make your deck boards rot faster too.
I don't want to hear that.
It's all that shade and moisture.
I know.
You just
I
have
was
to maintain it.
I was
Make
thinking
sure
about
it's stained
like
or something.
extend it and put a mount in there to where I can mount my grill, but it would actually almost like stick over, not over the side, but it wouldn't take away.
You'd have one of those little bump outs. So
Yeah.
your grill would sit in the little box.
It was like, that's my thought. And I was like, and my buddy in the buddy group's like, you just need to get like 10 of us together and we'll knock this out in a weekend.
Mhm.
And I was like, I think I can count on 3 of the 10. That's like what you were saying earlier.
It's like a paint party.
I was like, 3 of the 10 I think I can count on.
You could have a paint party with pizza and beer,
Yeah.
and you could sloppily paint your whole house.
Yeah.
Or you can hire a guy who paints,
Yeah.
and it'll be done in a day and a half,
Oh, yeah.
and it'd be a lot prettier.
Yeah.
And it might cost you the same in the pizza and the beer. And you wouldn't be as frustrated about you getting drunk and fighting with your friends about painting your house.
Whereas I keep looking at mine, it's like, eventually I'm going to repaint my living room. And I was like, I'm just going to do this myself in one day because I know how to do it. And
Yeah.
I've done it tons of times before. I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to ask anybody. I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to just tackle one room at a time.
That's the best way to go.
Yeah.
That's what we've kind of done here. I got my start painting, with
Yeah.
those apartments and stuff. I was terrible at painting when I first got
Mhm.
going with those guys. But now I've got my own style, my own techniques. I hate painting with other people.
Yeah.
Like it's so far down the list of what I'm usually called for now that
Yeah.
I can paint, but I don't volunteer it.
Yeah.
And usually if I'm painting, like if I do your porch and I paint your porch, it's totally out of convenience. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to paint it.
Yeah.
Because by the time I've jacked up your house and changed your porch, rebuilt all this stuff and made a railing, the last thing I want to do is paint it.
Yeah.
Like I want it out of there. Like I love my clients with some, it's like, man, now I got to paint. So
Yeah.
I rush it and it looks terrible and I get
Yeah.
mad. But if all I know I'm doing today is painting,
Yeah.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
It's like headphones and slow. Like it's not slow, but it's deliberate
Yeah.
and it goes really fast because I know how to do it.
Yeah.
But when I'm with other people who don't generally paint all the time, like I won't name names, but I have to leave the room. It's like, because I see how they're holding the brush or how much paint they've dipped on it. They're not,
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. I clean my brush every hour or so because
Okay.
you
Yeah.
lose it. It starts. Why is it dripping everywhere? It's because
Yeah.
it's full of paint. Like
Yeah.
you haven't actually put all that paint on the wall. There's all kinds of things. This
Well,
is
I
a
think about
paint
like
box right there.
when I bought my house, I spent like a month before I moved in because I just lived with my parents and did all the work I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Redid the flooring, but the painting thing was funny because it was me and 3 uncles and my dad. And like my dad and one of my uncles were on edge work because that's what they were good at.
I love it.
So my
I love
dad
cutting
would
in.
sit on, and they were like, what I want you to do is go around and put tape the night before.
Tape.
So I taped everything. Yeah. Because it was like the baseboards and all that stuff. And yeah. I need tape.
Johnny don't.
So they-
Johnny don't tape.
So,
What you need is a wet towel.
oh, yeah. I did learn
And
that. Yeah. So it was like the 2 of them were on edge work. I take that back. There were only 2 uncles there. And one of them was doing like he was installing ceiling fans and lighting fixtures and doing the painting around it. While we would paint where the ceiling fan would be, hit it, and then he would hit. But then I was on ceilings, and one of my uncles was on walls, and he could paint walls so damn fast. Yeah, that's like he got a roller and he got an extender, even though he was short. And he would hit one room and get it done, move on to the next room, and he just did a circle where he did like 2 layers on each room. He's like, because I know I missed some shit because I go so fast, but I also know I'm going to get this done.
It's like my boy Dino.
Yeah.
He worked with me for a while. He's my Monday worker. And he always told me he was helping me build stuff outside, but he's like, man, if you ever need something painted, let me know. I like to paint. Everybody says that shit. And I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Last summer, one of my clients who I do like minimal property management for, like I say minimal because it's just she moved out of town and I'm the on-site guy she calls first. If I can get to it, I will. But we had 2 apartments we needed to paint within like a week. And so I called him and was like, you interested in this? And he was like, yeah. So what we would do is I would go in all day. I also rehabbed an entire bathroom in the building. So I was working on the bathroom, and then I had another person sort of starting to paint. I would cut in during the day, and he would show up after he get off work.
Yeah.
I had all the paint, 6-pack of beer. Here's the key. Just see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd come in, and he cracked it out in a day.
Oh my God.
But he just he's great. He just puts his headphones on, takes his shoes off, grabs a roller and goes to town. Because I hate rolling.
Okay.
I love cutting.
Okay.
Something tangible about it. And there's a flow to it.
Yeah.
Rolling, I get in a big hurry because I think it's going to be over with soon, and it takes longer than you expect.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that. He just focuses.
Yep. That's how I am. Like, I'm just like.
And he was faster than us, too, at night. Yeah. So I'd be like, all right, you roll all these rooms. I'll come back and cut them.
Yeah.
You know, so now he's my paint guy.
See, I ended up having to get a buddy. The one thing I hate the most is wallpaper. And I had,
of course you do.
I had 3
on or off. You hate wallpaper.
3 layers of wallpaper, and I kept trying to get it off.
I got the little wheel with the blades.
Oh my God! So there was a friend of mine was like, "Oh yeah, this guy we used to work with, he does that," and I was like, he came over and he looked at it, and I was like, "How much will this cost?" And he was like, "Okay, this will cost about." It was like $200 or something.
Wow.
For my kitchen, which is like a shotgun kitchen. I was like, and he was like, I'll do that and paint it, and it'll be $200. He's like, because you're a buddy of mine. And I was like, okay, is that cheap or expensive?
That's cheap.
Okay.
I don't think I would even show up for $200.
And he did it. God love him, nicest guy in the world. But we would just start talking, and then he would stay there longer. And then it hit a point to where I was like, dude, okay, people are coming into town to stay with me. Like, I need my kitchen back before then. And I was like, do I need to help paint? I'll help paint. While you're trying to get that wallpaper shit up there, or I'll putty, I'll do whatever I need to do. And he was just like, finally it just ended up with like me helping paint on the big wall while he was doing all this. Because it was a fucking mess. And now it's all done. And every time I look at it, I was like, I'm so happy that wallpaper is not here anymore. Mm-hmm. Even if a year from now I don't like this paint color, I can always paint over it.
Yep.
And it's this weird, like, bright, vibrant blue. And I was like, I just need something to bring out.
Painting is the simplest way to change a room.
Yeah.
Like, I make a joke all the time about my job. I'm like, I'll change your life.
Yeah.
Every little thing is different.
Well, that's how I got into an argument with my friend's God lover to her when I bought my house. I was 25 when I bought my house. And she said, don't do too much work to it because when you get married, they're going to want to redo everything. And I was like, I'm a designer. I understand color theory. Like, I went through and I picked out good colors. Like, my office is like this mocha brown or darker chocolate, lighter in between, whatever. The bathroom is mocha. And she's like, oh, those are really good colors. I was like, this is what I do for a living. Yeah. I was like, but it hindered me from doing anything. And then finally, a few years ago, I was like, I need to start doing some work to the house. Like, the shit that I like, because I'm living here. Like,
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like this one, I don't know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I just can't. Partly coming home after working on this shit all day.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to do it at home because there's no money in it.
And the cobbler's kids have
Yeah.
the horseshoes or whatever.
Yeah. You know, and you can see out there, it's like my yard's becoming the contractor yard because I keep all the stuff that I might need for a job sometime.
But you can just call it art. You can be like, but
It's
that's
not
my art.
That's a pile of rocks.
That's my installation,
I
man.
want to get rid of that stuff. Oh, like that
Yeah.
pile of rocks was from, we used to have a koi pond right here.
Yeah.
And whoever made this thing was one of the 2 owners ago of this property. And turns out it was just a pond liner draped over some 2x10s.
Oh my God.
And then they put pavers on top of the 2x10s to the earth. So it really wasn't concrete or anything. It was just a hole in the ground with rubber.
Oh my God.
Once I tore it all out, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I built that flower bed with
Oh, yeah.
trellis
Yeah.
out of the wood that had been buried under the
That's
ground because it was still
hilarious.
good.
That's hilarious.
But all those pavers come from that. And so what I do now is if I'm building stairs on a deck
Yeah.
and they need a landing, you get free pavers. Like,
Oh, okay.
I was like, I got a solution for this.
Nice.
I'll land your stairs on these.
Well, it was funny. Like I was up at Aeromont for this thing called Pentaculum, which is just like a week-long retreat for artists. And I was in 2D program. And as I was up there, it was funny because, you know, you have pottery, you have clay, you have woodworking, you have metal, glass, fabrics, 2D, and writers. And the walk from where we stayed in the apartment things down to like the mess hall, there was this wall, and it was one of those like stone rock wall things. And I'm looking at this thing, and all the guys are like construction dudes. And they're putting this thing together, and it's beautiful. And I'm just looking at it kind of laughing. I was like, how many of these people in these other departments turn their nose down at these guys? And yet these guys are creating something better than those people will create in their art studios. It's like that kind of cracks me up. I almost made an announcement in the mess hall and be like, can we all take a step outside for a minute and let me explain to you? Because I grew up super poor, super not privileged, to where I was like, let me explain what this is, what's happening here, and how hilarious this is to me.
And then at the end of the day, as much as they look down
Yeah.
their noses at you, when you need your plumbing fixed, who you calling?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like when you need something that you can't do with,
Yeah.
like,
It just kind of cracked me up because I was like, they're creating literally what could be considered a piece of art with this stone wall thing. And I was like, and they're just getting it done.
Yeah.
Like they're just getting it done.
it's fun.
Yeah.
Like I don't, like I said earlier, like I don't complain about work.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
It beats you up,
Yeah.
but especially when you got somebody with you, it's all just jokes,
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
You're telling stories while you're
Yeah.
swinging hammers. It's not like you're sitting around trying to figure out last year's sales numbers, and like, because some of it is instinctual, like you do it enough times. Like,
Yeah.
it's really not hard to put up these joists. What are we going to talk about while we do it?
Yeah.
You might throw a number at each other for a saw, and then
Yeah.
it's really just, all right. So then I was at the bar, and this girl walked in. You know, it's stories, and it's fun, and there's camaraderie to it.
Yeah.
I miss Cody. Like, I miss seeing him every fucking day. He lives down the street now, so like we've been trying to hang out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I mean, even Dino, like
Yeah.
just painting with Dino, like he's got his life that he'll tell you
Yeah.
about. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but
Well, I'm thinking of like,
you're making things and you're living your life
Yeah.
at the same time,
yeah.
and none of it is that serious.
Yeah. I've heard people talk about that on movies of like when they're auditioning people, sometimes it's just seeing what a good hang they are. Because they're like, we're about to spend 3 months with this person. If they're
Yeah.
dick and they're wanting to sit in their trailer the whole time, I don't want to deal with them.
That's the big thing in skateboarding too. And I mean, not on the like street league level and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but it's the more thing you hear often about, because it's such a fickle business.
Yeah.
And they're not really making that much money, even though they're pros. But to get on the team, it comes down to who you want in the van.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because these guys just travel around, and all they do is ride skateboards all the
Yeah.
time. If you can't hang out in a van with somebody, they don't want
Yeah.
to be on your team. And certain teams are better fits for others, you know.
That's what cracks me up. I think it was like, I think it was Guns N' Roses around the time of Use Your Illusion, how they were talking about each band member had their own bus.
Yeah.
Because they could not take being around one another anymore.
Money
Yeah.
does that shit.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so construction. So what are you, when it comes to woodworking, are you like, and people have faith in you and decks and everything, but are there opportunities that you're kind of going after that are like, this would be something really cool to learn or to express myself in, like when it comes like cabinetry or anything like that?
Yeah, especially like I told you earlier, like I'm kind of off the deck thing for a while because I'm alone and it's hard. But I like when people have a challenge.
Yeah.
Like there's something there's like a space they need to fill.
Yeah.
And it's not like literal space, but my life would be better if X.
Right.
Like I just recently did a closet and I don't even think the client realized what I was talking about when we were in her house because she brought me in to look at stuff. I kind of want to do something in here because this doesn't seem right. And I'm like, well, because it was a room, it's like 8 by 8. It just had a rod in the back.
Oh my God. Okay.
And that was considered a walk-in closet, right?
Yeah.
For them to sell the house. But it also had the roof pitch in the back of the room.
Yeah.
So it has a limited thing to it. And instead of having a rod this way, I just put the rod this way.
Yeah.
And then built shelves here and here.
Yeah.
And now she has crazy amount of storage space that before it was a rod and a shelf.
Yeah.
And it's super simple to me.
Yeah.
But for her, it changed her whole damn life. Like, she's so stoked. You know? She was happy every time I showed up with a box.
Oh my God.
Basically building shelves is building boxes, right? So things like that. Or if I get the opportunity like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of taking old materials and maybe not structurally using them, but decoratively using them, like tabletops or something. Or in the reason I got into decks was because I built a couple of playhouses.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, my best clients are 4-year-olds.
Okay.
It's having a 4 or 5-year-old like looking at you all day, grinning because they know at the end of the week something awesome's about to happen. It feels so cool. And because it's not a real like structure, it's not a lived in thing. Yeah. You can go off code pretty good to make a house that's 5 feet tall, right?
That's hilarious.
And it's, but if you look on the Instagram page, there's one I made for my clients over in Holston Hills that's building it. Me and Cody were like, holy shit. Yeah. It's a 12 by 12 platform that's about 10 feet off the ground that wraps around a tree.
Crap. Okay.
And it has a little 5 by 8 house on it and wire railings. Like I went ape shit on this thing because I like the design of it. It looks so cool. And then I told them, like, when the kids get too old for it, you can just tear the house off, finish the rail, and now you got a platform to watch the sunset by the river. Yeah. Like you got a margarita deck too.
Yeah.
Like
margarita.
You know what I mean? And they're like, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to build something for them next week too. Like they've been repeat clients for
that's amazing.
A few projects. But it, stuff like that is just like, I got to get weird. Yeah. Even Sean's like shed. Yeah. I basically made a big playhouse. Yeah. We're using fence pickets for siding. Yeah. Just stuff. Like
did you build the stand thing for the
trash cans?
No, for the what's it called? Projector. Or did he build that?
I think he built that. I mentioned to him in building.
That just cracked me up. He was like, "We got this big wall. We can hang up a sheet."
It was sort of my idea, though.
Oh, really?
while we were doing, because we did the deck and the shed at the same time. Yeah. And because certain processes need certain materials, like I didn't finish one then do the other. Yeah. I was sort of like, okay, today's deck day. We decked both these things. And then today's roof day. We roofed 2 things. As I was building the shed, I was like, because to me, this after I got it up, I didn't realize in the design how like visibly tall that thing was going to be because of their yard slopes.
Yeah.
And I realized you just made a big wall in the middle of their backyard. So it kind of killed the space.
Yeah.
But I was also like, well, Sean's into fun time.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, you could paint this white and just project movies on it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that's a great idea. Like my favorite thing was like when I looked on Instagram and saw that Dale had put a kiddie pool on the end of the deck and she was just in paradise. I'm like, that made me feel great.
So the funny thing about them is he's been talking. I'm trying to think how long I've known
Sean.
I almost said Dosh, trying to say Dale and Sean together. I've known them for a bunch of years, and he has been taught. He was like, I hate mowing. I want that entire backyard gone. Whatever I've got to do. And he was like, at one point, he was like, I'm just going to deck the entire backyard.
Well, that was something I didn't realize going into it.
Yeah.
Because when he was telling me the size of the deck he wanted,
yeah,
I was like, that's a big deck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
I was like, and you want a shed right there too?
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to be half your yard. He's like, fine. I'm like, all right.
I don't want to have to deal with it anymore.
I understand now. But when he was talking to me about it, I was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with how big 16 feet is?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like just a number.
Yeah.
Like, 16 feet, sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's, 16 times 16. What is that?
He's been so
3,200 feet or something. Like,
especially since next door there are a bunch of crackheads, and we'd sit out
both sides, right? There's an empty house on one side, and there's a crackhead.
But we were sitting out on that front porch, and it was 2 a.m.
Hopefully, they don't listen to your podcast.
They'll think we were talking about the other side. They'll never think it was them. It was 2 a.m. It was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday night. It was raining, and one of the dudes was in the front yard digging a hole. And we're sitting
Sean's front yard or theirs?
No, in there.
Okay.
But we're sitting there like, what the fuck is happening? Then all of a sudden he comes up to the front patio and he's like, excuse me guys, do you have like one of those lights that I could hook up over here? And Sean was like, no. And he was like, okay, I just kind of can't see. And
don't dig a hole at night.
When he turned around and walked away, Sean was like, I think it's time that I go inside. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to leave, man. I was like, this is fucking weird.
Well, we were building that. I had some help with that one, and I was up doing the roof of the covered part.
Yeah.
And the girl that was working for me was on the ground. Luckily.
Yeah.
Because I didn't notice this dude creeped in the yard from next door. And then I don't think he knew she was there. I don't know what he was going to get into.
Yeah.
But after that moment, I was kind of like keeping an eye on, because I'd park right by the fence.
Yeah.
And just pull. And my tools are all over the yard.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
Hate that feeling. But I mean, they have more valuable stuff. They had motorcycles and stuff in their yard, so I really wasn't. I did store tools there overnight and stuff, but that moment when they like, I just hate the lie.
Yeah.
More than, like, I'm not afraid I'm going to get my stuff jacked.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty aware, but I hate having the conversation of like,
yeah,
hey, I like what you're building, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
But why are you in this yard talking to me right now? This isn't even your house.
Yeah.
What are you really sniffing around about? And that, I mean, that's just cultural. There's an epidemic of how many different kinds of ways people getting fucked up. And pawn shops give money to those people for tools of all sorts. One of those nailers over there is probably one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Cody, when we were going pretty full tilt for a while, and I bought that one of those framing nailers, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And he didn't have one. So I thought it'd be great to have two on site, 2 different size nails or whatever. We could both just go crazy. So I bought a second one, and then he sort of worked it off.
Yeah.
But someone stole it out of his truck.
Oh, my God.
Within a week or so. And I was like, God damn it. I was like, have you found it? And they're like, I kept the serial numbers because I bought it through my Home Depot account.
Okay.
And those things are you can register rigid tools. You can register them with
okay.
like lifetime warranty kind of
Yeah.
thing if something breaks. So I registered for him. Like
Yeah.
if it broke on him, we could send it back.
Yeah.
I guess that's fraud, but whatever. But I had these serial numbers, and I was like, maybe we can go to pawn shops and look around. He kind of did, but he couldn't find his. And then I went to a pawn shop and found one exactly like it that looked like someone stole it from Home Depot and sold it because
my
it hadn't
God.
even been used,
Yeah.
but it was a third the price.
Oh my God.
And I was like, Cody, hey man, you want that thing?
Yeah.
Because this is how much it is. He was like, yeah, man, I might go get it tomorrow. I'm like, I bought it today.
Yeah.
Like, and then I just kept it. Like,
Yeah.
I was going to sell it to him, and I don't think he had the money at the time. But now I have two of them for the fact that it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, my buddy David Gannon, I was talking about earlier, I think he has like 3 belt sanders at his house, in his shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I got tired of how laborious it was to change out
Yeah.
the different grades. And he was like, I finally realized it was better use of my time to just over time accumulate.
Yeah.
That was a big thing he was talking about. He was like, I didn't just go out and spend $10,000
Yeah,
or
you
whatever,
just-
you know. He
Every
was
once in a while, you buy a new thing.
yeah.
And once you get to a certain point, especially with like the cordless,
Mm-hmm.
like the smaller ones, like say a cutaway tool
Yeah.
or plunge router or something.
Yeah.
Once you've got set up in batteries,
Yeah.
every tool is about $100.
Yeah.
And it's not that big of a drop in a bucket. If it makes the job you're working on go better,
Yeah.
spend the $100
Yeah.
because you're going to make money on the job. And from now on, you have a thing that you can go wild
Yeah.
with. That's why if one of those nailers gets screwed, I got another one hanging there.
Yeah.
And I got 2 cords, so 2 of us could be framing
Yeah.
as we go.
Yeah.
And before that, I was just swinging hammers, and I took for granted because I really take pride in the hammer
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
I love framing with hammers. I like
Yeah.
driving nails, but I never realized how awesome framing nailers are
Yeah. Yeah.
for all kinds of application. Building a fence, building like bang, 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 bang.
I saw a video.
They're heavy and weird, but they're awesome.
A friend of mine conned me into getting on TikTok. Or she talked me into, sorry, Aaron, because you're probably listening to this. Sorry. I fuss at her every once in a while. I was like, damn it, this is such a time suck. Like, I sit there and watch it. But there's a lot of like DIY guys and stuff. And there was a video the other day that was how a pallet gets made. And watching that guy do the nail gun just go,
Well,
like, he did it so quick.
Well, you can turn a switch.
Yeah.
It's, because a nail gun, you have to plunge the end before it'll fire.
Yeah.
You can set them to automatic mode. You
Yeah.
can flip a switch to where you just hold the trigger and punch it,
Oh, my God.
and it'll fire.
But that guy, like, he did the nails, and the fact that he did them all so perfect.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a
It
skill.
was nuts. But he had this contraption built that was like at a 45-degree angle. There's these L brackets. And once he got all the boards in there and, like, shimmied them
They
up
just
together,
sit where they're supposed
it
to
was
be.
just like, and just went down. It's like, this is nuts. Oddly satisfying. I can
Yeah,
sit
it's
there
awesome.
and watch this video all day.
That's why I don't mind building fences.
Yeah.
The hardest part of building a fence is setting the post straight.
Yeah.
Everything else just goes with a nail gun.
Oh, my God.
Like the pickets,
Yeah.
you can you can attach like your right next to you is a torpedo level. You know what that is?
Mm-mm.
It's in the bag next to the red box. The furthest thing to your right,
This thing?
that thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can attach that to a board,
Mm-hmm.
like square with the edge of a 2x4.
Yeah.
Put one screw in the 2x4
Uh-huh.
and just let it hang from the stringer.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know where level is,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, my God.
you just like get wild with a nail gun. I built this fence right over here the same way. It's,
Oh, my God.
and you don't have to level them all. You could just
No.
use your like your carpenter square
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and put it on the stringer between the boards and smash it.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of weird dumb tricks to
Yeah.
make everything faster.
That's funny.
It's that whole like
Yeah.
work smarter, not harder thing. Make a jig.
Oh, that's my Gailey. He he is an engineer by trade. He's an electrical engineer. And him telling me about building jig, like his one whole wall is it's all these jigs to where he was, when he was like, he learned about Etsy and stuff. And he's like, what is something I can build that I can just sit and chunk out a bunch of? Figure out some organization to where I can chunk out a bunch of them to where I just fill a store.
Cutting boards.
After working for a day.
Birdhouses.
No, he builds these stools. They're like this big that are
that'll work.
Heavy duty, like awesome stools. And he was like, no, I just built a jig to where it's just like, I literally would just, how many boards do I need? How many feet do I need? I need 3 per one. And he was like, okay. And he just did it. And he was like, I had them all done in a day and I had like 20 of them.
Well, I mean, your guy has that big shop too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's one of the, I look at it sometimes with some of the stuff I make as an aesthetic.
Yeah.
But it's also just a symptom of where I am.
Yeah.
Like, look at this room.
Yeah.
How much, I don't have any space. I can't put a Tropper table saw in here because it'll take up most of the room.
Yeah.
So I've got the job site table saw, but I think what you build is a depiction of what you have available.
Right.
You know, I do pretty well considering everything's mobile and in this little box.
Yeah.
I'm kind of proud of it.
Yeah.
But it also lets me be like, I don't mind flaws.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make super perfect furniture all the time. I think there are furniture makers that can do that.
Oh, yeah.
Heuristic have it.
Yeah.
But, you know, recycling a 1/2-inch trim, making oak plywood into shiplap that looks like flooring
Yeah.
for this dumb tabletop.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I don't know. I like that aesthetic.
Character.
Yeah. Like this top, I made that top for the miter saw stand over there. I've had that. It used to be on 2x4s and would sit on top of saw horses. And I worked on that for a long time. So one day I'm just going to make a frame for it. Same thing with that table. Like it's almost Pollock. Like after years of use and poly and sanding and drill holes through it, just hang it on the wall.
Yeah.
It's another, it's process art in its own way.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Man, you could put like a date on the back of it and say, okay, after 5 years, this is going to hang.
I've made a lot of things on that tabletop.
Oh my God.
It's pretty cute.
All right. I think we've covered
where we are?
everything.
Have we?
Yeah. Is there anything else you feel like the need to express before?
I don't know. That's so far. That's
so in like hour 6.
That's big. I don't know. I'm just
I
happy
think
to be
I
here.
ended with Gailey by saying, if there's one piece of equipment, if somebody wanted to get into woodworking or construction or whatever, what is one piece of equipment you think would start everything? Or what do you think?
The most versatile piece of equipment to start with, maybe? I'll go with 2. If you can afford it.
Oh, there's another question, but yeah.
If you can afford it, the miter saw is handy.
Yeah.
And it speeds things up. But depending on your mobility and whatnot and how much you want to. Because I've gotten to a place where I don't like dragging it around.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of big.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say circular saw.
Okay.
You can build anything for your house with a circular saw if you know how to use it.
And the other question I asked him is, like, if somebody wanted to get into it, what is the first thing they should build?
Oh, weird.
And I'll tell you his answer, which was very simple and then he explained it.
And this is just getting into building things. I would say build a bookshelf.
Okay. He said build a box.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? He was like, just build a box because you're going to learn how to size everything and how everything kind of works together. And, you know, is it wobbly? Is it, you know?
Is it square?
He was like, that's the easiest thing to build.
It is easy. And almost everything you make is based on one.
Yeah. And he was
Even
like,
a
it's
deck is a
telling.
big box.
Yeah, it's telling, you know. But yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. This has been fun.